Castle of Black Iron. By Drunken Tiger. Chapter 381, Ewentra Archipelago. Zhang Tai went to the sea area in the north of the Wei subcontinent with only one target, to gain 7 strength fruits that could greatly increase his fighting strength. Numerous marine animals and magical beasts were living in the sea area in the north of the Wei subcontinent, who were very aggressive and were all mammals. In Zhang Tai's eyes, it was the best hunting ground for him to gain 7 strength fruits. With some more 7 strength fruits, Zhang Tai was confident that he could improve his precise throwing skill to a terrifying level. Although he had already realized sonic boom, it was not the end, instead, it was just the beginning. A javelin which could fly at the speed of sound would have a completely different destructive strength than that at 2 times the speed of sound transmission or 4 times the speed of sound transmission. If he had eaten some more 7 strength fruits when he was chased by those B***stards from the Zhen clan and Dragon Cave, he would not have gotten into such a situation. Instead, he could have easily killed them all with his hand bolts. Of course, 7 strength fruits could not only improve his precise throwing skill, but also make him more energetic and increase his overall physical strength. Meanwhile, the power of Iron Blood Fist and Iron Blood Battle Chi could also be greatly increased by eating 7 strength fruits. The 9 Wild Wolf 7th strength fruits not only gave him greater strength, but also gave him wild wolf-like endurance and speed. Zhang Tai didn't travel by ship, instead, he directly dove into the sea and entered an ocean current that flew northwards. Under the propulsion of the ocean current, he crazily absorbed sea water into the Castle of Black Iron. With the effect of the counterforce, he gained an unparalleled speed that could not be matched by any traffic tools in this age. He then flew underwater for 3 days like this before finally coming to this wonderful and strange place. Over the past 3 days, Zhang Tai couldn't tell how many kilometers he had swum underwater. He only knew that, without the bliss of rapid-moving skill, he also reached a terrifying speed underwater by only using his spiritual energy to adjust the diameter of the space tunnel for absorbing sea water into the Castle of Black Iron. He was definitely traveling at double the speed of AT9 on road. What restricted his speed underwater was not his ability but the pressure and force on his head, shoulders, and the other parts of his body. Although he could easily dive into 100 m in the sea, facing the great pressure and impact force, he could still not stand for a long time. Therefore, he could only slightly decelerate for a while to recover. After recovering, he would continue to swim at full speed and test his maximal physical endurance ability. For Zhang Tai, the 3 days traveling underwater was a tough cultivation and a good chance for him to increase basic energy storage for Castle of Black Iron. The sea area in the north of Wei subcontinent was pretty vast with numerous islands, large or small. In the northernmost part, there was even an unpopulated icy continent. Zhang Tai only headed northward. Without any map or reference, he didn't know where he was either. The only thing that he could confirm was that he was definitely somewhere in the sea area in the north of Wei subcontinent. Temperatures in the sea and in the air at night both told Zhang Tai that he was already in the northern sea area. After staying in the sea for 3 days, he finally arrived at a strange place. Zhang Tai didn't believe that anyone could find him. At that moment, Zhang Tai changed his look using his set of cross-dressing medicament combination that he'd bought in the auction house in Kalar. After cross-dressing, Zhang Tai's hair and eyebrows turned brown, his eyes turned blue while his skin became white. He was like another human race. Not to mention those who had not seen him before, even his mom could not confirm that he was her son. For those douchebags of 3i Association, no matter how sharp the killers they assigned were, they definitely couldn't find him anymore. This cross-dressing medicament combination is really good. It's really a necessity for one to change his face and escape from assassination after killing people or robbery. Zhang Tai felt very lucky to have bought such a set of items with less than 400 gold coins in the auction house in Kalar. Zhang Tai walked on the streets in the downtown as he kept looking around. At this moment, all residents across this city had fallen asleep, but there were still some lamplights from bars on the roadsides while tunes and sailors' banter drifted out of the bars. Occasionally he would meet some drunken guys. According to his knowledge about pioneers, Zhang Tai walked down the streets that were neither too spacious or eye-attractive nor too dark or narrow as he kept an eye on the shop signs. Eventually, Zhang Tai saw an inn sign in less than 20 minutes after he left the pier. Under the lower right corner of the sign was a pattern of crossing sword and shovel. At the sight of that pattern, Zhang Tai knew that he finally arrived. This was a 3-story inn called Wild Home. Although it was already late at night, there were still lamps on inside. Zhang Tai then pushed in and immediately felt a warm sense. On the first floor of the inn was a pretty large bar. When Zhang Tai entered, he found it was pretty boisterous in the bar. Although it was late at night, he could still see dozens of people gathering inside under the slightly dim lamplights. The 30 or 40 people were all pioneers. They stayed in groups of 3 to 5 people and were discussing something in low voices. When Zhang Tai entered, the crispy doorbell ring aroused the attention of all the pioneers inside the bar. Seeing that Zhang Tai was just a teenager, after glancing over him for a short while, they moved their attention away from him. Zhang Tai felt the atmosphere in the bar was a bit weird. Without thinking too much, he directly walked up to the counter. "Are there any rooms available?" The woman behind the counter was over 50 years old. With a thick makeup, she was holding a cigarette in her mouth while cleaning a glass using a white towel. She looked tall and plump, indicating a threatening, tough temperament. Hearing Zhang Tai's question, she peered at him before continued to wipe her glass, the last small one in the attic on the 3rd floor. 2 silver coins for 1 night. No bargaining. Fine. Give me a pioneering map. Oh, have you got anything to eat? That woman then put down her glass before fumbled out a tin-covered metal cylinder and put it in front of Zhang Tai. Here's a pioneering map on Awentra, 15 silver coins. We only have cod soup and caviar bread now. Okay, sounds good. Zhang Tai touched his stomach. During the 3 days' travel underwater, besides drinking 2 vials of all-purpose medicament, he ate nothing else. At this moment, he really needed some real food. According to our regulation, you need to pay first. A map, a cod soup and a caviar bread comes to 15 silver coins and 70 copper coins in total. Zhang Tai then fumbled in his backpack before directly pulled out 16 silver coins and put them on the counter. After seeing the silver coins, the woman behind the counter shouted towards the kitchen, "Millie, 1 cod soup and 1 caviar bread." She then gave 30 copper coins back to Zhang Tai. After putting away his change and map, Zhang Tai chose an available table beside the counter. Awentra? After sitting down, Zhang Tai immediately recalled the map on the sea area in the north of Wei subcontinent and the local customs and practices, political and economic situations on Wei subcontinent that he had learned in Hidden Dragon Palace. In Zhang Tai's mind, there was truly a place called Awentra. Accurately, it should be the Awentra archipelago. It was an island chain on the west of the sea area in the north of Wei subcontinent, which was composed of hundreds of islands. Awentra archipelago was one of the accesses to enter ice and snow wilderness in the north from Wei subcontinent. If one wanted to enter ice and snow wilderness in the north without going through the Awentra archipelago, one had to cross the ice-covered Kauka mountain which spanned tens of thousands of miles, which would be a nightmare for everybody. Ice and snow wilderness was the populated area in the northernmost part of Wei subcontinent. If one kept walking towards the north from ice and snow wilderness, one would enter the unpopulated zone of the ice-covered continent. Awentra archipelago was very loose in its governance structure. It had not a powerful government. Like the Andaman Alliance which Black Hawk City once belonged to, but it was much looser than Andaman Alliance. Besides some federations of city-states, some influential clans and great pirate organizations which occupied larger islands also had a say here. I've arrived at Awentra archipelago. Zhang Tai was a bit stunned inside. Awentra archipelago was over 11,000 kilometers away from the sea area near Huaiyuan Prefecture in Jinyun country. Under the thrust of ocean current, I've swum over 11,000 kilometers underwater in 3 days. Who would believe me if I told anyone this? Zhang Tai was pretty proud and pleasant inside. Such a free-swimming feeling in the sea made Zhang Tai spirited all over. Now that I've arrived here, I will look around then. Zhang Tai told himself inside. Ice and snow wilderness faced the sea in 3 directions. In the wilderness and in the neighboring sea areas, there were so many mutated mammal magical beasts and animals such as huge, snowland wolves, ice and snow great bears, sea dogs, seals and walruses, not to mention those mutated and evolved LV1 and LV2 sea creatures. How many 7-strength fruits he could gain in ice and snow wilderness completely depended on his fortune. The cod soup and caviar bread he ordered was soon served by a fat female waiter. They smelt pretty good and appetizing. The moment they were placed on table, Zhang Tai immediately started to dig in without caring about others' stares. Whoa, this tastes really nice. It seems that the news that pre-catastrophe relics of a human city were found on ice and snow wilderness has been spread out. Even such a hairless brat wants to have a try there. When Zhang Tai was eating his food, one of some pioneers who was sitting on Zhang Tai's right hand murmured to his partners. Although his sound was very low, Zhang Tai could still hear every of his word clearly. He only ordered cod soup and caviar bread, not even a drink. Besides, he didn't bring any weapons. And his clothes won't protect him in the climate of the ice and snow wilderness. That's definitely a newbie. He must think pioneering is like traveling, one only needs a purse. Another guy sniggered slightly. I bet this newbie will only last 1 week in ice and snow wilderness before becoming the excrement of those wild beasts. A third voice sounded. What a pity. He looks handsome and has the potential to be a boy toy. Why would he choose to be a pioneer? Perhaps, he thinks we pioneers can make money easily. Young men are always naive. When will the guy assigned by Wild Home to gather news come back? A Curie Island Shipping Association's long-distance remote sensing system should able to contact ice and snow wilderness. They must have business contacts. I'm on a Curie Island, an island on a Wentra archipelago. This is a large island covering over 4,000 square kilometers. Zhang Tai drank his cod soup as he listened to the others' discussions. Although those pioneers belittled him, Zhang Tai finally knew why so many pioneers gathered here. They were here for the relics of a human city which was discovered on the ice and snow wilderness. They seemed to be waiting for some news. Although Zhang Tai was interested in the relics of human city before catastrophe, he'd rather earn 7-strength fruits. Although relics could bring pioneers wealth, gold coins were not too attractive to Zhang Tai at this time. The moment Zhang Tai finished his soup and bread, he heard another crisp ring. Meanwhile, the door of the inn was pushed open by someone. A person then rushed inside and started to roar. Even still at the entrance, the pioneers on ice and snow wilderness have organized themselves. The news is true. They find some relics of a pre-catastrophe city in the Hela glacial crack in the south of ice and snow wilderness. Additionally, there might be an even greater discovery underground in the crack, pieces of the Star of God. After a short silence, the inn exploded into a clamor. Chapter 382, My Lord is Coming. When Zhang Tai woke up in the attic on the 3rd floor of Wild Home the next morning, he found that all the guests in the inn had disappeared. After cleaning himself up, Zhang Tai ate breakfast in the dining room of the bar on the 1st floor as he looked around. Even though it was early in the morning, he was the only one left in the whole dining room. He could only see empty tables around him. Actually, since those pioneers heard about the news on ice and snow wilderness, some of them had already started to leave, most of them had already gone before dawn. Zhang Tai was the only lazy guy left in the inn at the moment. Millie, the female waiter of the inn, served him their brand dish pizza with oyster as she asked, "Young man, you are special, they've long gone, are you still waiting for your partners?" Millie was plump and looked quite pretty. She had big, watery eyes and raised nose, and some freckles on her face. The thick fat over her neck made her look like she had 2 jaws. When she stooped to put Zhang Tai's breakfast onto the table, her 2 white and tender boobs almost popped out of her collar. "Oh, I'm not in a hurry. The early bird catches the worm, the early worm gets caught by the bird." Zhang Tai ate his breakfast as he joked. The pizza with oyster tasted nice, but the seaweed soup with shrimp meat tasted a bit weird. The fat girl then giggled as she coquetted by slightly patting him. "You're really funny." Can you tell me how those pioneers leave Akiri Island? Is it by airship? There's no airship. You can only take ship at the pier. There are ships heading for St. Herner, where you can take huge steamers for ice and snow wilderness. Oh, thanks. My pleasure. The fat girl turned around and left when she slightly rubbed Zhang Tie's arm with her plump buttocks under her skirt. Zhang Tai then bravely and slightly patted and pinched them. The fat girl then turned around and threw an enchanting smile towards Zhang Tai. There was really a high chance for young and handsome male pioneers to fall in love with amorous female waiters and inns. This was an old romance. After cross-dressing, Zhang Tai looked pretty different than before. Because of difference between human races, most of the white men on Wei subcontinent who mainly spoke Hebrew looked tough and resolute. Zhang Tai, as an East Asian man, looked quite handsome before. After cross-dressing, he became a white man and looked much more handsome and delicate. Although he was not as handsome as Heller, who made him self-conscious, he was worth the appellation of handsome boy. After breakfast, Zhang Tai dropped a silver coin on the table and left. He was only thinking about improving his fighting strength, instead of teasing girls. Therefore, he just ignored Millie's flirting. After leaving Wild Home, Zhang Tai directly stopped a carriage and headed for the pier on Akiri Island. Zhang Tai was in a nice mood. During the 3 days undersea water of challenging his endurance ability towards current, Zhang Tai gained 1 iron body fruit in the castle of black iron last night. After eating it, his body had been quenched by that mixed energy of cold and heat once again. As a result, he became resistant to strikes. Besides that iron body fruit, Zhang Tai gained 1 more leakless fruit last night. After eating it, the 15th surging point on his spine turned purple and was going to be activated very soon. Therefore, although only after 1 night, Zhang Tai's overall strength had improved a bit. This feeling of gradually improving his overall strength was really awesome. The carriage soon arrived at the pier. Zhang Tai then spent over 20 silver coins for a steamer ticket from Akiri Island to St. Herner Island. St. Herner Island was the biggest island in the northernmost of Iwentra Archipelago and the interchange station from Iwentra Archipelago to ice and snow wilderness. It would take a steamer to go from Akiri Island to St. Herner Island only a few hours. After Zhang Tai bought his ticket, he only waited a few minutes before the steamer set out. When Zhang Tai left Akiri Island, the boss and the sailors went aboard the ship and prepared for the day's work. They soon found that the lock on the hatch door was broken. After checking, they found that only 2 sets of clothes were missing. Besides, that person who took away the clothes even left a gold coin on the desk in the room. They didn't call the police. Instead, this thing was usually taken as a laughingstock among those sailors. Nobody connected that gold coin with that big hole on the net. The distance between Akiri Island and St. Herner was over 1,000 kilometers. The steamer would arrive at next night, which meant that Zhang Tai had to stay on the steamer for over 30 hours. After stepping onto the steamer, Zhang Tai just stood on the deck watching the passenger liners and freighters on the sea. The developed ocean shipping industry and port trade in Iwentra Archipelago left an extremely deep impression on Zhang Tai. When the steamer fully set out of the harbor and started to navigate on the sea, Zhang Tai saw nothing else except for islands in the distant, large and small. Although some islands looked nice, Zhang Tai didn't feel like viewing the scenery anymore. Instead, he went straight back to his own cabin. After closing the hatch door, he entered the trouble reappearance situation. Trouble reappearance situation, outside Heaven's cold city. The only demonized puppet activated had already charged at Zhang Tai when he appeared in the trouble reappearance situation. The demonized puppet was the first humanoid living being that appeared in Zhang Tai's trouble reappearance situation as an achievement of Zhang Tai in Heaven's cold city. Seeing this, Zhang Tai instantly pulled out his double-carved sword from his waist and cut off its legs. But the demonized puppet wouldn't die. Instead, it just crawled along the ground, furiously clawing at the ground, wanting to drag itself towards Zhang Tai. After a glance at that demonized puppet, Zhang Tai turned around and ran towards the camp, leaving it far behind him at once. Half an hour later, a huge Fury Wind war airship crushed a lot of tents on the ground into pieces before it unsteadily flew in the air. In a deep night of July, on El Zeta Mountain, the highest mountain in the middle of ice and snow wilderness. Although it was summer with the highest temperature when everything grew up in other places, this place was covered with ice and snow all the year round. Especially in the evening, the dropping temperature along with the chilly wind from the north tested everybody's physical endurance. Elzita Mountain was where the holy grounds of Icefield Huge Bear Tribe, the biggest tribe on ice and snow wilderness, was located. At this moment, the holy grounds of Icefield Huge Bear Tribe were surrounded by raging flames. Tens of thousands of the most powerful cruel bear fighters in the tribe were kneeling down on the square with one knee with their hot and pious eyes gazing at that high sacrificial altar where the great sacrifice of the tribe was going on. They were holding a sacred ceremony concerning the life or death of the whole tribe. The Iceland Huge Bear Tribe had been waiting for this ceremony hundreds of years. It could be said that since this tribe migrated into the ice and snow wilderness under the guidance of Elzita, the greatest prophet and pontiff of Iceland Huge Bear Tribe, they had been waiting for this day. This mountain was named after the greatest prophet and pontiff of the tribe. Even facing the intolerable, chilly wind of the ice and snow land, none of tens of thousands of cruel bear fighters, who were as robust as mountains, steel, and iron and in only simple leather clothes with naked arms and chests, uttered any sound. The entire holy ground was so quiet except for the sound of the heavy wind and the cracking sound of the burning oil in the braziers. This ceremony held by the pontiff and 18 officiants of the holy ground had undergone more than an hour. Since the start of the ceremony, sparkling starlights had appeared behind the pontiff. The twisting starlights responded to the stars in the sky while shadows as obscure as mirage constantly twisted among the starlights. Everybody was holding their breaths and watching that scene with eyes widely opened. However, except for the pontiff of the holy ground, nobody understood what the shadows represented. Because only the pontiff could master that knowledge. Each time the shadows of the twisting starlights were about to collapse, everybody on the square became very nervous. In order to finish the ceremony, more and more officiants fell down in front of the altar while the rest had blood dripping from the corners of their mouths. However, nobody spoke. Even those officiants who fell down didn't make any sound either. Everybody was gritting their teeth and waiting for the end of the ceremony. When the twisting starlights finally turned into the image of an Iceland huge bear and disappeared, everybody on the square forgot to breathe. They stood still for over 10 seconds, which felt as long as a century for many people. Finally, the pontiff's exciting, crisp yet fatigued voice sounded out in the square which could be heard clearly by everybody. "My lord, the Lord of all lords, has arrived." Hearing this, tens of thousands of cruel bear fighters let out a sigh, which was collectively as loud as a thunder. Meanwhile, terrifying battle chiefs surged into the sky one by another in front of the altar. "We've waited for today for hundreds of years. Now, let's wait for Pontiff Saren's instructions. We will welcome our lord back to Elzita. Each warrior of Iceland Huge Bear Tribe is willing to use their own skin, blood, and flesh as the carpet and their bones as the stage for my lord to ascend to the throne." A loud thunder-like voice sounded under the altar, which could be heard by everybody clearly too. Aken, the most dubious and powerful warrior in Iceland Huge Bear Tribe, in the mysterious maze with cross time and space, I could only see a part of it. Perhaps only the great forebears like Elzita could see more and guide us to wait for our lord here and to make the prophecy of rejuvenating our tribe and population come true. How can we find him and know who he is? Aken asked as what the others wanted to know. Pontiff Saren then started to hum again like talking in his dream. "My lord, the lord who is destined to conquer all the seas in the world comes here from over 10,000 kilometers away in the sea. The sea with surging and dangerous waves are like plain roads under the Lord's feet. My lord, the lord of creatures who founds an immortal undertaking comes from the east and south. Now, he's on the sea and in the sky. The most powerful weapon of my lord is his javelin. The javelin is as terrifying and powerful as bolts and thunders as it will destroy all the enemies on the road before us. My lord's look belongs to himself, yet could not be identified by others. When my lord fights, he erects the banner to summon all of his fighters and all his fighters will see that. He's the most sacred god among all the gods. He controls all the other gods. He will bring the brilliance from the paradise to the earthly world and return the original honors of everyone. Go, all the most powerful and bravest warriors of Iceland, huge bear tribe who's lucky enough to witness the arrival of my lord, to fight together with my lord in the future and to accept my lord's most sacred and honorable baptism for you in the future. Since your grandpa's grandpa, they had been waiting for this day, yet they failed. But you are lucky enough to see my lord. Go tell the other tribes on ice and snow wilderness, my lord is coming. Go welcome my lord to his immortal throne. Several minutes later, teams of sword-teeth beasts broke the tranquility of this land under the starlights with their heavy clops and darted in all directions from the foot of Elzita mountain. Chapter 383, Trouble. Zhang Tai arrived at St. Herner Island the next evening, some hours later than the estimated arrival time because his passenger liner met a heavy wind the previous night which slowed its sailing speed. St. Herner Island was over 1,000 kilometers north of Akiri Island. The temperature here was obviously lower than that of Akiri Island. The moment the passenger liner arrived at the port, passengers who had stayed on board for dozens of hours had disembarked hurriedly. Many of them were carrying luggage, some even held sabers or swords, except for Zhang Tai whose hands were empty. Zhang Tai didn't notice that his hands were empty until he disembarked. He looked really eye-catching. This look didn't match a pioneer's status at all. It seems that I have to go to a store for some pioneer products on St. Herner Island. Albeit there were some pioneer equipment and appliances in the castle of black iron which were bought in Stars Viewing City, they were utterly different than the styles of those items used by those pioneers on the Uwentra archipelago. If he wore them, he would tell others that he was a newbie coming from afar. That would be stupid. Especially due to the climate of the Uwentra archipelago and the ice and snow wilderness, pioneers here were wearing utterly different outfits than those in Jinyun country. Of course, Zhang Tai who only wanted to increase his fighting strength calmly would not turn him into a spotlight only for saving a few gold coins. There were mountains of products in the port of St. Herner Island. Those tall tower cranes were constantly discharging goods from those super huge steamers. Zhang Tai found most of the goods were wood, oars, and square linen parcels that contained various animal hides. There were so many warehouses in the port while many workers were loading and moving these goods between warehouses and steamers. The wharf was bustling. This place was much more prosperous than Akiri Island. Besides the larger population, the industry and trade here were also obviously more developed. Zhang Tai also saw some dockyards near the port. The Zhang clan was building ships in Jinhai City. Having visited the shipyard of Zhang clan, Zhang Tai knew a bit about building steamers. At the sight of those docks near the wharf, Zhang Tai instantly judged that all the docks were capable of building huge steamers of tens of thousands of tons with varying sizes and platforms. Besides being more prosperous than Akiri Island, this place looked more barbarous as the overseers on the wharf would ferociously lash those carriers with their whips and would shout loudly at any time. Zhang Tai also noticed some primitive people with weird tattoos on their faces and bodies barging about among the crowd. Even those pirates who wore skull horns with fierce fat faces also arrived while carrying sabers, sword, and shields. Since he left the passenger liner at the ticketing window of the port, Zhang Tai had already witnessed 2 battles. The surrounding people were not even interested in watching the battles at all as they had seen similar scenes so many times. Of course, no sheriffs or policemen would care about them. Give me the latest steamer ticket to the ice and snow wilderness. As the line in front of the ticketing window was not long, Zhang Tai had gotten a chance to buy his ticket in only 3 minutes. An old man with a brandy nose was sitting behind the ticketing window. After glancing at Zhang Tai, the old man slightly and lazily waved his head as he mumbled, "Another pioneer wanting to make a fortune in the ice and snow wilderness? The latest passenger liner will set out in 5 days. There are VIP, first class, second class, and economy class cabins. Which one do you want? What's the difference? 16 gold coins for VIP, 7 gold coins for first class, 4 gold coins for second class, 1 person per cabin. 3 free meals available for VIP and first class. 80 silver coins for economy class, passengers stay in 1 big cabin. Which do you want?" The ticket prices really startled Zhang Tai. They were too expensive as they could even match that of airship tickets, how come they're so expensive? It has to pass the Devil North Wind Belt of Oro Strait, you tell me why. After thinking for a short while, Zhang Tai gave him 4 gold coins. Give me a second-class ticket. The old man then manipulated the ticketing machine, causing a series of data sounds. A few seconds later, he gave Zhang Tai his ticket. Taking the ticket, Zhang Tai took a glance at it and found that the ticket read, 10 a.m., July 31st, number 7 Pier, St. Helena Harbor, Blue Polar Whale, second-class cabin G614, boarding with this ticket. It seems that I have to stay here a few days. Thinking about this, Zhang Tai left the ticketing window. On the streets outside the harbor, there were many people. Zhang Tai looked around and found various shops on both sides of the streets. Zhang Tai didn't walk too far away. Instead, he chose an average, tidy inn that was less than a 20-minute walk from the harbor. The management in the hotel was stricter than the Pioneers Inn as it needed to register the ID number of the guest. Zhang Tai presented his latest ID certificate in front of the counter, an ID certificate of a countryman of Holy Golden Orchid Empire. A very average name was beside his photo, Peter Hamplister. Zhang Tai estimated that there were at least 10,000 people shared the same name across the Blackson human race corridor. He remembered some guys called Peter at school in Black Hawk City. Zhang Tai then settled down on St. Helena Island and waited for boarding. In the blink of an eye, 2 days had passed. In the past 2 days, Zhang Tai also learned about the situation in the sea close to St. Helena Island. On some small isles, there were many seals and walruses. Many people were living on these animals. However, these animals were kind in temperament and rarely attacked people. Although they were mammals living in the sea, their population were not hostile towards humans. Therefore, according to the generation rules of 7-strength fruits, Zhang Tai would not kill those poor animals. However, those mutated seals and walruses were different. The bloody seals and huge walruses close to St. Helena Island were existences that scared sailors a lot, as the two species both liked to attack people and small fishers, which had caused a lot of disasters in the area. However, the two species didn't have a large population near St. Helena Island. They mostly lived in the Blue Edge Strait to the east of the ice and snow wilderness. Therefore, Zhang Tai had to go to ice and snow wilderness to look for bloody seals and huge walruses, which wasn't contradictory to his previous plan. Only after slightly changing his route on the map, Zhang Tai settled down in the hotel. On the 3rd day, Heller wanted him to collect some special plant seeds on the island. Zhang Tai also wanted to buy some equipment to respond to the climate of the ice and snow wilderness. Therefore, after supper, he left the hotel. He soon bought the necessary equipment at cost of less than 4 gold coins. With a hat made of sea dog's hide on his head, a pair of gloves made of a bear's hide on his hands, a multi-purpose cloak made of fox's hide on his back, and a heavy pioneer sword that could be used in the sea and on the land in hand, Zhang Tai looked no different than those pioneers on the streets. Although the necessary equipment, Zhang Tai only bought some plant seeds wanted by Heller in a small store of a remote suburban farmer's market after wandering for several hours in the downtown area. After putting the seeds into his backpack, Zhang Tai found that small stores had closed as it was already past 10 p.m. Zhang Tai then returned according to the route in his memory. There were a few people on the suburban road in the evening. 2 rows of tall birches were standing on both sides of the road. After walking for over 20 minutes, Zhang Tai only met 3 to 5 people. Of course, Zhang Tai would not be afraid of walking alone in the evening. Additionally, he had night vision. Seeing lamplights casting from behind, Zhang Tai hurriedly moved aside on the roadside stones. 10 seconds later, 6 cars passed by Zhang Tai. One of them passed a small puddle and splattered mud onto Zhang Tai's pants. F***ck, Zhang Tai swore loudly. However, the driver didn't care about his feeling at all. In a wink, the team of 6 cars had gone dozens of meters away. Besides swear, Zhang Tai didn't do anything else. However, the moment Zhang Tai was preparing to wipe the mud off his pants, Zhang Tai saw a birch several meters in diameter falling down in front of him and directly hit the hood of the first car, which forced the whole team to park at once. The last two vehicles failed to decelerate on time and directly crashed onto the ends of the front cars. "Retreat!" someone in one of the 6 cars roared. Although it was dozens meters ahead of him, Zhang Tai could still hear it clearly. The roar was followed by shiny axes flying out of the pine woods on the roadside like locusts. Some axes directly tore off the thin steel plates of the cars and were stuck inside. Some directly hacked onto the bulletproof glass and caused spiderweb-like cracks. The first wave of axes didn't hurt anyone, except for causing the cars to appear in a sorry state. In a split second, besides the first car which was under the big tree, all the other cars started to retreat rapidly as if well trained for the scenario. Meanwhile, 6 men with shields and sharp swords instantly jumped off the first car and rushed towards the roadside pine woods without making any sound. The second wave of axes soon arrived. Before the 6 men arrived at the roadside, they had been torn into pieces by those flashing axes. Some axes accurately flew into the cars through the cracks of the windows that were caused by the first wave of axes. As a result, balls of bloody mist broke out in 3 of the 5 cars at once. The fresh blood sprouted onto the glass in all directions like that small puddle being pressed by that car just now, causing the glass red all over. Over 10 m ahead of Zhang Tai, some more birch trees of several meters in diameter fell down and blocked the 5 remaining cars. The doors of the cars all opened, while people inside all rushed out and started to fight those killers in black clothes who were rushing out of the roadsides. Miserable shrieks, fierce battles, the spraying fresh blood, the sounds of sabers, swords, and axes cutting into body, and those battle totems which had disappeared before rising up. Within several seconds, before Zhang Tai determined whether to save them or to directly turn around and escape, the battle had come to an end. Over 30 dead bleeding bodies covered dozens of meters on the road under the wrecked cars' lamplights. Most of them were those getting off the cars, 7 to 8 of them were killers in black clothes. Additionally, those killers were still sharply adding hacks on those dead bodies. At this moment, a tough man who was covered with blood leaned against a car as he held a long sword and a shield to protect a woman. At the same time, he furiously glanced over those grim and bloody killers who were surrounding them. Although some of those killers were killed, there were still over 50 people of them. "Who are you?" the tough man asked loudly. "Do you know the consequences of going against the Ballas clan? You have to pay for it with your blood." Those killers didn't speak at all, instead, they just moved forward to block that man and the woman behind him. "Gitta, no need to ask. Don't you understand that those people are assigned by those old douchebags of the Ballas clan?" A calm voice sounded, then the woman slightly let out a sigh. "Because of their absurdness and greed, they have lost their reason and chosen to cooperate with ghosts. They don't even think about that. Even if they killed me, how could the properties of the Ballas clan fall into their hands?" Pa. With a series of slight clapping sounds, a long-faced muscled guy walked out of those killers. Everybody on the Ewentra archipelago knows that there is a seductive fox on St. Helena Island, who is the most beautiful widow in the Ballas clan. A woman who makes the Ballas clan one of the top clans on St. Helena Island in only 10-odd years. "You look as beautiful as they describe." From Zhang Tai's viewpoint, he could not see the look of the woman who was facing him with her back over 20 m away, but from her back, Zhang Tai felt she was pretty mature and seductive. Additionally, he could sense the long-faced guy's burning eyes fixed on that woman. That long-faced guy seemed to have felt Zhang Tai's gaze. He then glanced at Zhang Tai before waving his hand to a killer beside him. The killer then walked towards Zhang Tai. For those people, a teenager like Zhang Tai was just a small figure with bad luck. Why the F***ck was he still on the road at this time? Of course, they thought Zhang Tai deserved to be killed. Seeing a killer walking towards him, all the others killers didn't care about Zhang Tai at all, including that long-faced guy, because in all of their eyes, Zhang Tai was like a salty fish on the chopping board, a common pioneer who might have been scared stiff by what was happening. In many people's eyes, the alleged pioneers were just a number of homeless coolies who dreamed about becoming rich by moving around. They were no more threatening than those farmers who retired from army. Actually, many pioneers were composed of soldiers who retired from army and didn't feel like living simple lives. Most of them were between LV1 and LV5. However, few pioneers were above LV6. The proportion of pioneers above LV6 among pioneers was lower than the proportion of military officials among the same amount of soldiers. Therefore, they didn't need to worry about whether Zhang Tai was a powerhouse or not. The tough man and that woman 20 m away also thought that Zhang Tai was just a poor guy who witnessed what was happening by accident. Nobody felt that Zhang Tai's existence would cause any change to the current situation or what would happen next. It seemed that Zhang Tai had become a dead boy lying on the ground at this moment. Zhang Tai then glanced at that guy who walked towards him with weapon as he sighed inside. I don't want to find trouble, but the trouble comes to me. Now that those guys want to kill me, unless I leave St. Helena Island at this moment by directly diving into the sea and swimming to the ice and snow wilderness or change my look once again, these people could easily find me on this island based on their capabilities and background. Although Zhang Tai didn't want to stir up trouble, he didn't want to suffer any injustice for them. He felt it was not worth it for him to do that. Additionally, Zhang Tai confirmed that if he just escaped in this way, he would probably be the scapegoat of those killers and would be wanted badly by the Motherf * King Balas clan, dead or not. By doing this, they could stop him from releasing the truth to the public and let him be their scapegoat. One stone, two birds. Even idiots would know that. The two men's talk had arisen Zhang Tai's interest as Zhang Tai, who always felt being the same as average residents, was also very interested in such revenge between wealthy and influential clans. Therefore, after thinking about leaving for a short while, Zhang Tai gave up this choice. This was a nice game, a really nice game. I've been disappointed by the Balas clan. I don't know what those old douchebags have promised you, but I know what you want. We can have a trade here. You let me and my chief guard leave St. Helena Island. We will leave tomorrow without taking any copper coins. I will give you all of my belongings on St. Helena Island and in the Balas clan so that you could get what you want more easily. How about that? Although that woman was at an absolute disadvantage, she still didn't give it up. She kept talking about conditions with those guys calmly. Before seeing you, I truly wanted to kill you, but now, I've changed my mind. That long-faced man gazed at that woman with greedy eyes without covering his inner thoughts at all. He glanced at her body like how a wolf licking its prey. It would be very nice if I could throw such an intelligent and beautiful woman into my bed. It would be very pitiful if you were just killed in this way. Hearing this, all the other killers started to smirk obscenely. The moment the tough man heard this, he roared as his battle chi rolled up, presenting a king snake. He wanted to rush towards that long-faced guy, yet he was concerned about the woman behind him. Therefore, he just glanced over those killers with burning eyes. Unless I'm killed, you would not touch even a hair of Ms. Alina. Then, go die. Saying this, the long-faced man shot out his icy eye as he hacked his huge bola towards the tough man. At the same time, a huge battle chi totem of bloody scorpion appeared behind him. After 3 loud sounds, Gitta's shield had been completely broken. Meanwhile, he had been sent flying backwards in the air and fell to the ground 10 m away while sprouting out blood. Seeing this, the woman let out a sigh. The long-faced man then moved forward with a contemptuous smile, intending to hack that man into pieces. At this moment, with a sound of breaking bones all men turned around and looked at that place where the sound came from. It was where Zhang Tai was standing. He held that killer's neck like pinching a chick. When everyone turned around, they saw Zhang Tai just moving his hand back while that killer had fallen onto the ground with his twisted neck, completely dead. Seeing their gazes, Zhang Tai felt embarrassed as he smirked. He wanted to kill me, so I have to pinch him to death. You don't mind, right? Do you? The long-faced guy with a bola narrowed his eyes instantly. Hearing Zhang Tai's words, the woman also turned around and stared at Zhang Tai, who was standing away from them on the roadside. When she turned around, Zhang Tai was stunned instantly as he seemed to be seeing Miss Dana in a different set of clothes. Chapter 384, Saving a Beauty. That woman looked pretty similar to Miss Dana. At the sight of her, Zhang Tai even thought Miss Dana was standing in front of him. However, this woman had something different than Miss Dana. Miss Dana had brown hair and blue eyes, however, this woman had chestnut red hair and cyan eyes. Additionally, her lips looked plumper. Miss Dana was an intellectual, tender beauty, yet this woman looked enchanting and a bit sluggish. At this moment, Zhang Tai didn't see too much panic from that woman's delicate face. Instead, he only saw a bit of grief and an indifference facing trouble. At the sight of Zhang Tai, that woman's eyes gleamed. Zhang Tai was very calm. Albeit he had killed a person, facing dozens of killers with fierce eyes, Zhang Tai didn't look flustered at all. Instead, he looked like an audience who was watching a performance. That woman knew that a person who could still be that calm in such a situation definitely had his talent and had experienced greater troubles, except for Zhang Tai's look as a pioneer and young age under the hazy lamplights of the cars were out of her imagination. With bola in hand, the long-faced man just fixed his eyes on Zhang Tai. He didn't say anything at all. His eyes were filled with a killing intent. He then waved his hand and 4 killers rushed towards Zhang Tai. Seeing this, Zhang Tai, who didn't want to expose the secret that he had mastered Iron Blood Fist, pulled out of that slim pioneering sword that he had just bought. This sword had not seen any blood yet. But now, it would be used to kill people. Nobody could describe how Zhang Tai launched his attack. In front of Zhang Tai, the 4 killers just looked like kids who were leisurely running and jumping in the wild of rural areas. He looked like he was holding a little wooden stick and slapping it over the roadside verdant grass, seemingly wanting to scare the butterfly off from the grass. Zhang Tai only moved 4 footsteps in the whole process, 2 footsteps forward and 2 footsteps backward. During this process, he also rapidly stabbed 4 times along with his moving footsteps. When Zhang Tai returned to his original position, he looked as if he had done nothing at all. However, the 4 murderous killers all fell down on the ground and died without even a convulsion. They were all attacked at their hearts and died instantly. For Zhang Tai, the 5 people were not even qualified as to be his targets. The whole process lasted less than 2 seconds. All the killers forcefully swallowed their saliva. Those killers who were closer to Zhang Tai felt a fierce killing chi from Zhang Tai's tranquil eyes when Zhang Tai raised his eyes and looked at them. As a result, they all moved 1 step back out of fear. The long-faced man also felt that killing chi from Zhang Tai, which was formed after killing numerous people. His face also slightly changed. In contrast, that woman's eyes gleamed at this time. "It seems that you mind me killing one of your people very much." Zhang Tai revealed a smile. "Who are you?" The long-faced man barely opened his mouth. "Of course, I'm a pioneer." Zhang Tai shrugged with a smile as he showed his equipment and clothes to him. "Can't you see that? Now that you are a pioneer, it's nothing to do with you. I've not seen what you've done. Mind your own business." "How about that?" The long-faced man then moved his eyes between Zhang Tai and the woman before finally said while gritting his teeth. What Zhang Tai performed just now made the long-faced man very cautious. What was more, the long-faced man couldn't make his decision as he didn't know Zhang Tai's real fighting strength and background. Therefore, he had to choose to give a compromise to Zhang Tai. Based on Zhang Tai's performance, the long-faced guy realized that it would definitely be more difficult for him to kill Zhang Tai than killing the woman's 20-odd bodyguards. Additionally, if Zhang Tai wanted to escape, the long-faced man estimated that they could not block him at all, as Zhang Tai's mystical movements just now were really shocking. It was definitely a master level. "I was just a passerby and want to go back downtown. I don't care about your thing at all. But you blocked me and even wanted to kill me." Zhang Tai said in an innocent voice, "If you give way, I will leave right now." The long-faced man carefully gazed at Zhang Tai for quite a while before finally forcefully waved his head, "Let him go." Receiving the order, dozens of killers hurriedly gave way to Zhang Tai. Seeing Zhang Tai putting away his long sword and walking towards them leisurely, many people let out a sigh. When everybody thought that Zhang Tai would just pass by in this way, he flashed like a lightning bolt, cutting 3 killers' heads off at once while their blood sprouted out of their necks as high as 1 m. Before the 3 heads fell to the ground, he had stabbed 2 more killers' hearts, causing them to fly back in the air. B** starred, what are you doing? With eyes turned red, the long-faced man instantly threw his bola towards Zhang Tai's head. Zhang moved slightly aside as the bola missed him and passed by his shoulder with a strong wind. At the same time, all the other killers charged at him. Zhang Tai launched an attack once again and sent another killer fly in the air. I don't like suffering losses. 5 men of yours wanted to kill me just now. Although I killed them, I have to hack back 5 times like what they did to me. You can also choose to kill me if you can. Attention, please, I am safeguarding myself by killing everyone. I'm not attacking you on purpose. Zhang Tai kept killing them as he explained. He looked like a tiger among sheep. With each move, he would kill a killer in black clothes by the sword. After saying this, he bumped into a man 2 m tall, causing him sprout blood. Like a football, that tough guy was sent flying more than 20 m away and even knocked another 2 guys down. With a backhand, Zhang Tai then split open another killer's stomach. At that time, Zhang Tai had been only less than 5 m away from that woman. Additionally, nobody else was near him. The long-faced man also figured out Zhang Tai's intention at this moment. Zhang Tai didn't mean to leave at the beginning, instead, he wanted to save this woman. He was cheated by Zhang Tai. Kill them. The long-faced man then roared as he waved his bola towards that woman instead of Zhang Tai. At the critical moment, the long-faced man was also very fierce. Now that he could not kill Zhang Tai, he would kill that woman first to finish his task today. Of course, Zhang Tai was not faster than a LV9 powerhouse's bola, neither would an average woman escape from a LV9 powerhouse's trump card. At the sight of that long-faced man's grim face and his terrifying bola, the woman thought, am I going to die here today? Being stricken by such a terrifying weapon, I must look very disgusting, those ballast idiots. With this thought, she closed her eyes. However, she was not stricken by the bola, because Zhang Tai threw out his sword and hit that bola in a split second. Although it could not stop the bola, it changed its flying trace at once, causing it flying aside. With a strong wind, the flying bola blew her chestnut red hair backwards. With a loud sound boom, it hacked into a car beside the woman, causing a horrible big hole on a door. The woman was not able to see clearly what had happened at all. She only felt a chilling wind over her ear. Closely after that, she was hugged by a pair of powerful arms and started to roll rapidly over the ground. The long-faced man kept booming his bola onto the ground where the woman and Zhang Tai had just rolled by like their shadows. Being hugged by Zhang Tai, that woman also felt the terrifying power of the bola as she could feel earthquake each time the bola tamped onto the ground. At the critical moment, the woman didn't feel panic anymore. Instead, she just gazed at Zhang Tai's young and handsome face and sensed Zhang Tai's breath. Zhang Tai hugged her meticulously like hugging a fragile porcelain, one hand over her waist, the other hand over her neck, resting her head against his shoulder. In this way, no matter how they rolled on the ground, she would not be bruised by stones and bulges. Although still being in danger, that woman had already recovered composure as she could feel the unprecedented sense of safety and warmth. At this moment, Gita, her chief guard, roared. After a short rest, the tough guy struck by the bola had jumped up again from the ground. Without caring about his wounds at all, he directly picked up his weapon and rushed towards Zhang Tai and that woman. Protect her, I need 1 minute. After saying this, Zhang Tai threw that woman towards Gita before catching the iron chain of the bola beside him and flew towards that long-faced man with the help of the strength when the guy pulled his bola back. In a split second, he had been less than 4 m away from that long-faced man, making the bola ineffective. Taking over the woman, Gita instantly stood in front of her and split a killer into halves. At this moment, Zhang Tai found the advantage of a LV9 powerhouse. Seeing Zhang Tai being close to him with the help of his iron chain, the long-faced man revealed a sinister smile as he instantly loosened his grip on the bola. Meanwhile, the iron chain of the bola in another hand lashed towards Zhang Tai like a whip. With a bola in hand, he could strike the enemy sharply and ferociously, far or not, without any shortcomings. At the same time, some killers had picked up their axes from the ground and the cars. Boom him first. The long-faced man shouted loudly. Hearing this, they threw their axes towards Zhang Tai at once. After drawing an icy arc in the air, the 4 axes directly chopped towards Zhang Tai as they blocked Zhang Tai's paths of retreat. Seeing so many weapons attacking Zhang Tai, the woman was so scared that she instantly covered her mouth. In others' eyes, Zhang Tai had no way to retreat at this moment. Additionally, he had no weapon. How could he deal with them at the same time? Zhang Tai also narrowed his eyes. They are so tacit with each other. It seems that I have to use my double carp sword. Zhang Tai had already reached his hand towards his waist. However, at this moment, Zhang Tai felt blank, like a hidden drawer in his brain was opened by others. Time seemed to slow down at this moment as a weird feeling appeared. Meanwhile, those axes flying towards him instantly became slow in Zhang Tai's eyes. That was true, they were becoming slow. Zhang Tai could identify their flight traces, their centers of gravity, strengths, and angles. He was sure that he would not be stricken by them. He also sensed an instinct that he was able to allow his hands to follow a marvelous round trace and control those flying axes by changing their flying directions and strengths. This sense was pretty similar to that when he awakened his precise throwing skill. The difference was that this time he could force back items flying towards him and take other strengths and weapons as his. Zhang Tai knew that he had awakened another ancestral bloodline. This one was more powerful than the precise throwing skill and was more irresistible. For Zhang Tai, time seemed to be slowing down too much. Before the long-faced man's iron chain struck him, the 4 axes had already reached his sides. Although in others' eyes, the 4 axes were thrown out at the same time, in Zhang Tai's eyes, they were not reaching his sides head by head, as the distance between each 2 of them was greater than 1 m. Seeing the first axe flying towards him, following that strange feeling, Zhang Tai put his hand over the edge of the axe and forced it to draw an arc in front of him before flying towards the long-faced man's iron chain. When the second one arrived, Zhang Tai also forced it to draw an arc in front of him and sent it flying towards the long-faced man's head with an arc in the air. When controlling the second axe, Zhang Tai had one more enlightenment. He didn't have to keep the article flying in a straight line. He could force it to fly towards the target in terms of curve, arc, or twisting patterns. He then imposed a force on the third axe and forced it to fly back to the guys who had thrown out their axes in a curve, cutting through the 4 guys' necks in a line. The fourth axe was forced to fly towards that woman and the guard, which was crowded with most killers in black clothes. For the fourth axe, Zhang Tai had been hard-pressed to control it, as he almost could not catch its flying speed. Thankfully, there were only 4 axes. With one more, he had to evade. Actually, he had finished this process in less than 1 second. Being imposed by Zhang Tai, the 4 axes flew towards 4 directions with a great strength. Nobody could imagine that the result could be reversed in such a split second. Even the long-faced man didn't know what had happened until his death. If Zhang Tai directly threw an axe towards him when fighting him face to face, the long-faced man might not even be killed. After all, a LV9 powerhouse who had prepared to fight might even escape from a sonic boom, except in this case. The first axe broke the long-faced man's iron chain. The second axe sent the long-faced man's head flying in the air. The third axe slayed the 4 killers who had thrown their axes towards Zhang Tai, causing them to sprout blood from their necks and fall down instantly. The fourth axe cleared a greater part of those killers surrounding Gita and the woman. After hitting the 4 targets, Zhang Tai heard 4 in 1 sonic boom, as was expected. As a result, almost 1/3 of the killers were killed. The sudden loud sonic boom startled everybody who was fighting. Many killers in black clothes even stopped. When all of them realized what happened, they found a great number of people had fallen down, including the long-faced man. Zhang Tai, however, who should have fallen down, was still standing where he was, almost without even a movement. Some of them who had seen what Zhang Tai did just stared at him as if watching a ghost. In those guys' eyes, Zhang Tai was like a huge spring, as all the axes flying towards him were bounced back by a strong force the moment they drew close to him. Zhang Tai moved so fast that most of people didn't see that Zhang Tai had changed the directions of the axes with his own hands. Instead, they only felt the axes automatically bounced back the moment they touched Zhang Tai. That woman also widened her eyes. That was amazing. How could that happen? Those are axes that could even break the steel plates of cars, they are not a kid's rubber balls. How could they just bounce away? Among all of them, only Gita could sense Zhang Tai's movements. If those axes all flew towards him, Gita felt that he could block 2 to 3 of them with a shield or a proper weapon and could hardly block the fourth one. However, he could never force axes to bounce back. That was amazing. He had not even heard about that before. Whereas, before those shocking killers understood what happened, Zhang Tai, who picked up a long sword with his foot, had rushed into them and chopped off their heads. After a few minutes, when Zhang Tai killed the last killer escaping dozens of meters away in the birch forest, he dropped off that long sword which he picked up casually and came to that woman and her chief guard. After such a bloody fight, the guard suffered a few more wounds. Thankfully, they were not fatal. Zhang Tai found that the chief guard was experienced in real battle. "Are you all right?" He asked both that man and the woman, although, with his eyes fixed on that woman, he sensed a sincere feeling from her. "Just some bruises, it's okay." Saying this, Gita coughed out blood. He then took out a vial of medicament and drank it. Zhang Tai peered at that vial of medicament and found it was a medium-level recovery medicament, therefore, he just nodded and didn't speak. After narrowly escaping from the assassination, the woman's face looked pretty pale. Besides some blood stains on her skirt when Zhang Tai hugged her to roll over the ground, she was okay. The scene was so terrifying, which could almost match a real battlefield. However, seeing 80 to 90 dead bodies lying on the ground within 100 m, that woman didn't feel uncomfortable at all. This made Zhang Tai respect her more. "Thanks for saving me and my chief guard, but our crisis has not been solved. Additionally, we are not able to defend against any future crisis." That woman then looked at Zhang Tai with a tender and attractive voice with her beautiful eyes deeply fixed on Zhang Tai full of expectations. "I'm Alina, the chairman of the Ballas Business Group on St. Herner Island. I know it's a bit much, but can you give me another hand, or, if you wish to be employed by me, I'd like to pay you whatever you want." Chapter 385, A Conspiracy. There was always a moment when a person did something for some unknown reason in their life. Take this moment as an example. Not knowing why, seeing this woman being very similar to Miss Dana and her expecting eyes, Zhang Tai had an impulsion to prevent her from suffering any harm. Because of this impulsion, even though Zhang Tai knew that he might cause a lot of trouble if he helped her, he still did that. As the woman had told him, although she survived, she was not sure whether more danger were still waiting for her. "Well, I accept your proposal, but I have to claim one point that I will only be responsible for your personal safety and I will not kill people on purpose for you. I'm a pioneer, not a killer. Additionally, I won't stay with you for a long time. I promise you won't regret your decision today." That woman stared at Zhang Tai deeply as her seductive red lips opened once again. "Then, what should I call you, young pioneer?" "I'm Peter Hamplister, you can call me Peter." Zhang Tai told her the fake name that he had long prepared well. While they talked, Gita, the chief guard, had already checked all the killers' corpses. "Ma'am, may you have a look here?" Gita was standing before that long-faced man's body whose head had been chopped off with a gloomy look. Hearing his words, the woman took out a hand towel and covered his mouth and nose with it. After that, she strode over those corpses and blood stains and arrived at Gita's side, followed by Zhang Tai. The body's clothes had been split open by Gita using his saber. Additionally, it had been turned over with its back facing the sky. Zhang Tai saw a strange tattoo on its back. It was a huge and grim snake with a unicorn on its head. "Gita, tell me, what does this mean?" the woman asked her chief guard. "Ma'am, this person comes from Magical Snake Island. Additionally, he should have a high position on the island, otherwise, he wouldn't have been qualified to have such a tattoo on his back." Gita explained solemnly. "Those mother F** king douchebags, they are truly working with these demons." As Zhang Tai had expected, the woman looked for just less than 2 seconds before recovering her composure. "Put his head away, it's useful. I remember that the heads of those guys from Magical Snake Island are very valuable. They are wanted by many people." The head of Bell clan on St. Helena Island likes to see these guys' heads very much. Yes, ma'am. The chief guard didn't ask why. He directly peeled off a nearby killer's coat and wrapped that head with opening eyes using it. Zhang Tai just watched from the side. As he didn't know their situation, he just kept silent. Ma'am, will we go for those **king douchebags now? With that head in the coat, Gita stood up in front of her once again and asked, emanating a strong killing chi while holding his sword. Now? Do we have any evidence to charge them? Or can we directly go kill them? Of course, we go kill them. Gita answered loudly, full of fury, we've lost so many people, they even wanted to kill you. Shouldn't they pay for that? As long as you deliver the order, ma'am, I will go chop off their heads right now. What then? If you kill them, you would be a murderer and I would be the most infamous vicious woman across Awentra archipelagos. The woman waved her head as an icy light flashed by her beautiful cyan eyes. No, this is not the outcome I want. What I want is to let those **king douchebags drink their poisonous alcohol themselves. What should we do now? We will go back to Blue Sea Castle first. In the following couple of minutes, Gita cleaned up a car which could still run and moved away some birches from the road together with Zhang Tai. Zhang Tai could move those trees away himself, however, at the sight of Gita coming to help him, Zhang Tai didn't want to make him look like a tough man or further expose his real fighting strength, therefore, he moved away the trees together with Gita. Peter, I owe you my life. After moving away those trees, Gita patted his hands and told Zhang Tai with a serious look. If you say so, you might be my most valuable mortgager now. I hope you will have no chance to pay it off. Zhang Tai smiled. Zhang Tai liked such a tough man as he saw something from him which he sensed from his comrades back in Iron Blood Camp: sincerity, passion, frankness, honesty. Gita also showed a big smile. Stretching out his hands, he tightly held Zhang Tai's hand. They then got on the car. Gita drove the car, Zhang Tai then sat together with Alina in the back. Sitting together with Alina, Zhang Tai smelt that special fragrance which was carried by mature women. Zhang Tai then found she looked really similar to Miss Dana, even their fragrances smelt almost the same, which were both alluring and sweet. Are they using the same brand of perfume? What a coincidence. Zhang Tai sighed inside. The car's glasses had been completely broken while terrifying traces of the axes were left on the plates. Thankfully, its engine and lights still worked. It was long distance from here to the downtown. Without the windows, wind poured into the car. The night wind on St. Helena Island felt very cold when it blew by their faces. Gita didn't feel cold at all. He was driving his car with eyes widely opened as he watched the roadsides vigilantly. Alina only wore a skirt on the back seat. Only 2 minutes after Gita started the car, she started to quiver all over slightly with her hands crossed in front of her breasts. Seeing this, Zhang Tai put off his fox hair cloak and covered it onto the woman. Arg, thanks. Olin revealed a smile as she turned around and told Zhang Tai with a tender voice. My pleasure. After wearing a cloak, Alina adjusted her sitting position. When she sat down again, she moved closer to Zhang Tai to be warmer. As a result, their thighs almost touched each other. With that layer of silky high-end skirt between them, Zhang Tai could feel the nice touch onto her plump and smooth thigh. At the beginning, Zhang Tai felt okay, however, as the car kept bumping up and down, their thighs started to rub constantly. Gradually, Zhang Tai felt especially stimulative. Zhang Tai glanced at Alina when she was also glancing at him. Seemingly because her body gradually warmed up, Alina's face looked a bit red. The moment they saw each other, they moved their eyes away at once, then, they felt ambiguous and stimulated immediately. Gita was still driving the car like nothing had happened. Zhang Tai then slightly twisted his body due to embarrassment. Although he knew she was not Miss Dana, he still displayed his deep feeling about Miss Dana, which went through his puberty and his numerous wet dreams to this woman. He felt like he was sat beside Miss Dana. With a bit of tension, he wanted to move closer to her and push her. Especially that fragrance, which was too similar to that of Miss Dana. If Zhang Tai didn't look at her carefully, he would feel that Miss Dana really was sitting beside him. "I'm a bit sleepy. Can I lean against your shoulder?" Alina asked. Before Zhang Tai agreed, she had already tilted her head onto Zhang Tai's shoulder. This intimate movement caused Zhang Tai's body a bit stiff. Not only this, she even tightly held Zhang Tai's right hand with her hands from below. Being held by her, Zhang Tai felt the icy sweat in her hands. Zhang Tai then realized that this woman was not as calm as she looked when being attacked. Instead, she was very scared inside, although she didn't display her inner feelings on her face. Gita only peered at them from the rearview mirror before continuing to drive as usual. The woman's warm and soft nose then touched Zhang Tai's neck, causing his neck to become a bit itchy. As long as Zhang Tai turned over his head, his face would touch her forehead, therefore, Zhang Tai became a bit stiff all over. After several minutes, when Zhang Tai felt this woman's hands warming up, he glanced at her through his eye corners and found that she had fallen asleep. The car soon arrived at the downtown and crossed that road where Zhang Tai's hotel was on. It drove in another direction. In order to avoid from another ambush, Gita seen choosing a remote route with few passers-by. Although some passers-by noticed this car with a miserable look, they didn't react abnormally besides surprises. In this way, the car arrived at a castle in the east of the downtown after 20 more minutes. Blue Sea Castle was at least double the size of Zhang Tai's Jingwu Castle. Besides, its walls were much higher than that of most Western castles. When they arrived at the castle, it was already deep night as Zhang Tai could see that the walls were brightly lit and heavily guarded. Gita seemingly wanted to park the car directly in front of the gate, however, at the sight of the brightly lit walls and the defensive weapons on the walls, Zhang Tai's heart raced as he had a blood sense. "Stop the car!" Zhang Tai shouted towards Gita. Gita instantly parked at 500 m away from the castle. "What's wrong?" Gita turned around and asked. "Put out the lamplights." 500 m is not a long distance for the defensive weapons on the walls. After the previous battle, Gita had formed an instinctive trust towards Zhang Tai. He then instantly turned off the lamplights to put them out. Alina woke up at this moment as she moved her head away from Zhang Tai's shoulder. She instantly sat straight and looked outside. "What? Have we arrived at Blue Sea Castle? We almost be there. But Peter told me to park it here and put out the lamplights," Gita explained to Alina. Alina then immediately looked at Zhang Tai. "Where are we?" Zhang Tai asked. "Ms. Alina used to live here, this is Blue Sea Castle," Gita explained. "Who are those guards? How many people do they have? Who are their leaders?" "They are armed guards of Ballast Business Group, totally over 200 people. Their leaders are 5 chief guards appointed by Ms. Alina. Is there something wrong? If we directly park this car in front of the gate of the castle, have you calculated the chance of us surviving the ballistas on the wall?" Zhang Tai asked seriously. Hearing this, Gita and Alina turned their faces at the same time. Based on the terrifying power of those defensive weapons on the walls, with a close-range dent shooting, the car would instantly become a hornet's nest with numerous holes, let alone the people inside. "You mean the guards of the business group have been bribed? How come?" Gita almost screamed. As they were his colleagues, hearing Zhang Tai's speculation, he instantly doubted. "Not all of them are bribed, those people could not bribe everybody, if possible, they would not have ambushed you tonight. But, if one of the chief guards and some guards who were responsible for manipulating the ballistae were bribed, what would happen then?" Gita didn't speak while Alina tightly bit her lower lip. "What should we do now?" "Gita, do you know all the guards over there?" "All of them. Many of them are my friends." "Then, are you afraid of death?" "I should have died before. Ms. Alina saved my life. I should have died tonight too, thankfully, I meet you. I'm not afraid at all," Gita answered honestly. Chapter 386, Reveal the Conspiracy. According to Zhang Tai's suggestion, Gita just parked the car and put out the lamplights. Zhang Tai stayed to protect Alina while Gita walked towards the castle alone. Gita soon arrived at the suspension bridge in front of the gate. The suspension bridge had been raised. A 20 m wide moat surrounded that castle. It was the last warning to the invaders. In the defense system of the castle, guards on the walls had the right to attack any people crossing the moat without prior consent, as they had trespassed the private territory. After arriving at the riverside of the moat, Gita raised his head and looked at the steam ballistae on the high walls as he was slightly chalked inside. Although it was already late at night, from the lamplights on the walls, Gita could still see clearly the shiny mouths of the steam ballistae and the mouth of a honeybomb-fashioned ballista, whose cover had been moved away after lying there for a long time, slightly hanging down towards the place in front of the gate. From Gita's memory, the mouths of those steam ballistae should have all been positioned horizontally. Thankfully, due to Zhang Tie's warning, he'd carefully observed these details and sensed a looming killing intent from the wall of the castle. "I'm Gita, the chief guard of Ms. Olena, lower the suspension bridge." After a deep breath, Gita stood on the riverside of the moat and shouted loudly towards the castle with his full strength. Normally, the moment those guards on the wall caught sight of the arrival of Ms. Olena's fleet of cars, they would have lowered the suspension bridge. But not today. Gita shouted loudly twice. At the beginning, no sound was heard from above the walls. After over 10 seconds, an arrogant and lazy voice sounded on a tower. "Who's screaming down there? This is Blue Sea Castle. If you don't belong to this place, piss off right now, otherwise, I will teach you a thing or two." Gita was not familiar with that voice. Even as the chief guard of Ms. Olena, Gita could still not be familiar with every guard's voice. The moment he heard this strange voice, Gita realized something wrong. Many people up there should have heard his loud voice. The one who responded to him should be a chief guard on duty there. He was very familiar with the other chief guards' voices, and they were familiar with his voice. How come such a small figure came out to drive him away? Carve, Cree, Alexander, G. Gang, and Adeline. Which one of you is up there? Answer me. Gita shouted out of fury below, "You be asterisk stards, who's up there? Come out, don't you recognize my voice? Piss off, if you keep screaming there, we will shoot you." The same strange voice was heard again. But this time it sounded much more furious than the last time, but mixed with a bit of timidness. "I'm Gita, the chief guard of Ms. Olena. Many brothers in the castle know me. If anyone dares shoot me, when Ms. Olena comes back, she will peel off your skin." Carve, Cree, Alexander, G. Gang, and Adeline, which one is upside there? Come out to talk with me. Gita continued to shout loudly below the castle while some noises could be heard from the top of the walls and the tower. Finally, a familiar voice was heard. "Who's down there?" "Cree, I'm Gita, lower the suspension bridge." "Gita, are you with Ms. Olena? Why are you alone? Where's she?" "Ms. Olena is in a safe place. Someone wants to kill her. She let me come back first and want you to pick her up with the guards in the castle." Hearing Gita's words, the face of the 40-odd man with a nice handlebar mustache changed slightly while his trusted followers exchanged glances at each other before looked at him, not knowing what to do. The current situation was completely out of the expectations of everybody and made their plan void instantly. The 40-odd man then gritted his teeth and shouted, "According to the regulation of Blue Sea Castle, without the order of Ms. Olena, nobody can open the gate in the evening. Only Ms. Olena has the right to dispatch forces from the castle. Gita, what you told us was not trustworthy. Before I see Ms. Olena, I will not violate the regulations of the castle even though we are familiar with each other. Unless Ms. Olena arrives, I will not open the gate for you, nor will I allow you to dispatch forces from the castle. Carve, you be asterisk starred. If you don't come out soon, you'll have to pay off the 200-odd gold coins that you owe me tomorrow. Alexander, Ms. Olena needs help now, yet, motherf asterisk cur, you are still sleeping. G. Gang, you be asterisk starred, besides molesting women, what else can you do? Adeline, if you don't come out right now, after I die, you will become a widow." Gita's voice grew louder. Without considering Kree's feelings, he just called each chief guard's name and swore at them from the other side of the moat. Hearing this, the people in the tower looked worse. A guard beside Cree moved closer to him and murmured, "Head, why not make him shut up? We only need to trigger a ballista." "Shut up, do you want me to die together with him?" Cree swore in a low voice as he felt very agonizing. He didn't know the situation of Ms. Olena. If he killed Gita at this moment, as long as that woman was not dead, he would be killed at dawn. Additionally, Gita was safe, that meant that woman might really have been moved to a safe place. If so, it would be meaningless for him to insist on his plan. However, if he just allowed Gita to shout loudly downside there and dispatch guards from the castle to support her, their plans would really be ruined, which he didn't wish to see. If so, those people's promise to him would not be fulfilled. While Cree was still thinking about it, the other chief guards had already arrived at the wall of the castle. They had already heard Gita's shout. "Cree, what's happening?" Carve, with dense brown hair and beard and a robust frame, rushed into the tower first. "Why is Gita shouting outside? Why not let him in?" Cree forced a smile. According to the regulation in the castle, without Ms. Olena's order, nobody is allowed to access to Blue Sea Castle for free. Therefore, Carve just ignored Cree. Instead, he roared, "Gita, you be ****, where's Ms. Olena? Why you are alone?" Hearing this familiar voice, Gita immediately realized that his shouting had worked. Peter was right, they truly could not bribe every person in the castle. Carve, Ms. Olena encountered an assassination attempt on the way back tonight. Someone wants to murder her. Ms. Olena told me to dispatch guards from the castle to pick her up. Gita shouted in a louder voice. Not only had Carve heard Gita's words, even Alexander, Gang, and Adeline, who had just arrived at the tower, also heard them. Alexander was over 50 years old. He was the eldest one among the chief guards. With a fat frame and bald head, he looked more like a cunning businessman. Gang was a young man of over 20 years old. He had blonde and oily hair and a handsome playboy look. A long sword was hung at his waist. Adeline was a woman whose left eye and eyebrow had weird flame-like tattoos. Additionally, she had fiery red hair. Carrying a javelin container, she had a barbarian clan's bloodline. Only after a few seconds, the other chief guards had already found out what had happened. Cree was explaining to them why he didn't allow people to lower the suspension bridge and let Gita in. Alexander looked at Cree while slightly narrowing his eyes. "Cree is reasonable, but Ms. Olena truly has told us that if she was not in the castle, the 5 of us can make the decision to deal with emergencies. What's happening tonight is an emergency, let's vote then." "I agree to dispatch guards to pick up Ms. Olena," Carve said loudly. "I agree too." Adeline also replied without any hesitation. "I agree." Gang smiled, "I've long waited for such a chance to save Ms. Olena. Count me in." Alexander also expressed his opinion. After a moment of hesitation, Cree saw Carve moving his hand closer to his sword handle while Adeline raised her eyebrows. "Now that you agree, I agree too." Cree hurriedly expressed his instance. After waiting over the moat for a short while, Gita saw them lowering the suspension bridge. The 5 chief guards then rushed out of the gate with a great number of guards, many of whom were female fighters in light armor led by Adeline. "Gita, where's Ms. Olena? How's her condition?" Carve asked firstly. "Ms. Olena is now in a safe place." "Adeline, Ms. Olena wants you to take over the defense system of the tower of the outer castle." "Okay." Adeline didn't doubt Gita's message at all. Instead, she just glared at him. "What were you raving about just now? I will give you a lesson when I'm free." Adeline then said something to her female fighters. Then all the female fighters returned to the castle and took over the defense systems of the outer castle's tower at once. The order passed by Gita amazed everybody else. Alexander then stared at Cree deeply. At this moment, Cree didn't say anything. He looked pretty bad, even a bit flurried. "Do we need to dispatch cars there?" Gang asked. "No need, follow me." Gita glanced at Cree with an icy expression before said, "Cree, follow me up too." Cree forced a smile as he pushed in front of Gita in a humble way. "I was just following the rules in Blue Sea Castle, hope you don't care about that." Gita ignored him and hurriedly checked over his shoulders that he was being followed by everybody else. Wearing Zhang Tai's foxhair cloak, Alina just sat under a pine together with Zhang Tai on the roadside. Seeing the team of people holding burning torches walking towards them out of the castle, Zhang Tai knew that his speculation was right. Facing such a situation, he preferred to be derided as an idiot instead of risking his own life to test those strangers' morality. Zhang Tai sensed that the woman let out a sigh slightly. What if Gita hadn't come back? Seeing the swaying flames moving closer to them, Alina, who was gazing at the distance, asked Zhang Tai suddenly, "You should have known that was a possibility. They might not have bribed all of my loyal followers, yet with only a small plot and a vial of poison, they could make nobody be loyal to me anymore. By then, I would be isolated and you would be in an even more dangerous situation. I want to know if you'd leave me alone then." Hearing this question, Zhang Tai was stunned for a short while. Rubbing his face, the moment he wanted to reply, he heard Alina continue, "I want to listen to your true words." True words? Zhang Tai kept silent. He would not tell a lie to a woman whenever it was, even on the bed. It was his principle, if that happened, if we could not fight those guys who want to kill you, I would escape together with you. In the worst scenario, we would leave St. Helena Island. Hearing Zhang Tai's answer, the woman's eyes gleamed. She then continued to ask out of curiosity, "Why? Aren't you afraid of the troubles that I might bring to you? I might have lost everything by then and would not be able to pay you at all." This question made Zhang Tai a bit embarrassed. Even if he wanted to tell the truth, he didn't know what to say, because the truth was a story of a poor teenager's growth. Thankfully, Alina didn't keep asking him. Seeing Gita bringing his men over, the woman glanced at Zhang Tai's embarrassed face while a smile threatened to spread across her face. She then recovered her dignity and calmness again. The group coming out of Blue Sea Castle had already seen Alina and Zhang Tai after they left the castle hundreds of meters away. Everybody was then shocked as they hurriedly ran towards Alina. At the sight of Alina, besides amazement, the chief guards relaxed at once, except for Cree, whose face turned pale as his body slightly shivered. Now that Ms. Alina has already arrived at the outside of the castle, why not enter? Why would she call them over there? Does she already know that? At that moment, not only Cree, even the other chief guards had thought of the same question. Gita walked towards Alina and murmured to her. Alina then instantly fixed her eyes onto Cree and said in a calm voice, "Cree, Gita has told me what happened just now. I hadn't imagined that you are that loyal to me." "Good, very good." Cree forcefully swallowed his saliva as he said stiffly, "It was merely my duty." "Madam, Gita said that someone wanted to murder you tonight?" "Oh, where are the other guards?" Parav walked one step forward and asked loudly. "We will talk about it later. Head back to Blue Sea Castle first." "Madam, who's he? I feel a dangerous aura emanating from him." Adeline had fixed her eyes onto Zhang Tai since she arrived here. Although this young and handsome man looked innocent, he felt very dangerous. At the first sight of Zhang Tai, Adeline, who was sensitive to danger, felt the hairs on the back of her neck stand up at once. This feeling was similar to when she met the most dangerous beasts in the forest. Adeline's words raised everybody else's attention onto Zhang Tai. "This is Peter. From now on, he's my bodyguard. He enjoys the same treatment and privileges as Gita in Blue Sea Castle." Alina didn't explain too much about Zhang Tai's background, instead, she just declared her decision, which instantly showed her dignity as a lord. After that, she waved her hand. "Go back to Blue Sea Castle now." With everybody's protection, Alina returned to Blue Sea Castle. After entering the castle, Zhang Tai found that Adeline always kept her eyes on him while that young chief guard Ji Gang seemed to find him a bit repulsive instead of being hostile toward him. Gita silently pointed at Cree as he looked at Zhang Tai and nodded solemnly. Zhang Tai then understood what happened. Zhang Tai was really curious how would Alina deal with such a situation. The main hall was very luxurious and magnificent. After returning to Blue Sea Castle, the 5 chief guards were called in there by Alina. In the hall, Alina sat on the main seat while the 5 chief guards were standing in front of her. As her bodyguard, Zhang Tai just stood on her left-hand side. Gita had disappeared the moment he returned to the castle. Nobody knew where he was. Alina then described how she was attacked that night in a very calm tone. After hearing that, the 5 chief guards were all stunned. Before they could ask any questions, Alina had already delivered a series of orders. Chapter 387, Special Treatment. Take my visiting card and take some guys to register a case in the City Defense Administration of St. Helena Island. After that, go to the Ballas clan's Greyrock Castle and call Etna, Silicis, and Mesa to Blue Sea Castle tomorrow morning. Tell them that I've got something important to negotiate with them. If they want to know the details, tell them about the events that occurred tonight. Yes, madam. Cree, I will present a certificate to you after a while. You then take a small team of guards to leave St. Helena Island now for the headquarters of a Winter Bounty Hunters Association and increase the amount of reward by 1 million gold coins for hunting personnel on Magical Snake Island. Alina's tone was mixed with a killing intent. Cree slightly shivered all over as he lowered his head. Yes, madam. Adeline, go contact the seniors of your tribe, tell them that I've agreed to their conditions. Ballas Business Group will spare 20% of the airline business of Sinila Island to you, but the number of barbarians in the armed Silver Wing Guards of Ballas Business Group should be increased to 30% of its total population. Meanwhile, an alternate captain of Silver Wing Guards will be assigned by your men, who will only answer to me. With the strange tattoos around her left eye and eyebrow, Adeline raised her eyebrows once again and forcefully nodded. Parav, you should work hard these days. You will take over the responsibility for the safety of Blue Sea Castle. Trust me, madam, if any malicious guys slide into the castle, I will chop off my own head. Parav patted his chest proudly. G-Gang, go to the training camp of Silver Wing Guards to select 200 more guards and train them to be qualified guards of the castle. I want to see its effect within 2 weeks. You will do it yourself first. After a couple of days, I will let Alexander help you. Yes, madam. G-Gang bowed towards Alina elegantly. Well, I'm a bit tired and want to take a rest. In the whole process, Zhang Tai just watched aside silently. When Alina dispatched Cree to the headquarters of a Winter Bounty Hunters Association to execute that task, Zhang Tai instantly felt that woman was very shrewd. In this way, she cleared the dangerous members out of Blue Sea Castle in a reasonable way and put Cree in a sticky position at once. Zhang Tai felt that Alina had included other deep meanings in this order, but he couldn't figure them out right now. After getting their own tasks, the 5 chief guards left. Gita then returned to the hall. Madam, I've been told that Cree has led his subordinates to take over the extremely powerful defense equipment on the tower tonight. He even checked the running situation of those equipment in the power boiler room and engine room of the castle. At his request, the 2 main power boilers' nominal working pressure were both 30% higher than normal. As the Lord of Jinwu Castle, Zhang Tai knew clearly what did it meant. It was the standard ready-for-war condition. Albeit higher nominal working pressure of the main boilers meant extremely great power of the defense weapons which were driven by the steam-driven boilers, yet it also meant less life expectancy of the boilers. Therefore, normally, the main power boiler's nominal working pressure was only maintained at a normally stable value, only in emergencies, or when checking the working condition and running performance of the boilers, would they adjust the main boilers to a heavy burden running state. Gita, do you want to revenge for those dead guards? Of course, I even want to take my brothers to chop off the heads of those old douchebags of the Ballas clan right now. Gita replied in a very righteous and furious way. You know that is impossible. If you want to revenge them, from now on, you have to hide your animosity. You should be happy. Happy? Gita looked unimaginable. Madam, you want me to be happy at this moment? Yes, be happy. Sitting on the main seat, the woman took a deep breath and revealed a brilliant smile as her breasts rose up. Sitting beside her, Zhang Tai couldn't help but peer at her plump boobs. As a result, his heart raced slightly. We were not ambushed by those guys from Magical Snake Island tonight. Instead, we ambushed them. We lost over 20 people, yet they lost 50 to 60 people. We gained a complete victory. we even chopped off the head of an important figure from Magical Snake Island. Shouldn't we be happy about that? Alina explained to Gita. But, why? Because, as long as we look happy, our enemy, who doesn't want to see us happy, will not feel safe. They will be curious as to why we are so happy. Thus, they will try their best to figure out the reason. Then, someone will get revenge for you. Madam, you're making me confused. Don't worry, you will understand it in a few days. Now, you only need to keep my words in mind. If some of your friends invite you for a drink and ask you about this, you just tell them that we long got the message and we prepared our own ambush tonight instead of being ambushed. This is a task for you. Am I clear? Okay, I understand. Gita forcefully nodded. Gita, take your men to deal with those dead guards. All the personnel who were killed tonight will be rewarded with 5 times that of the common standard. Thanks, madam, their deaths are valuable. I've already let Alexander register our case in the City Defense Administration. Given the speed of the City Defense Administration, it would take them at least 2 hours to arrive there. You and your men will have to arrive there first. After dealing with our men's dead bodies, you should have enough time to adjust the scene to make it look like we ambushed those killers. Is that okay? It's not difficult. Although we were ambushed at the beginning, later, with the help of Peter, those killers looked like they were being ambushed. We only need to do some trivial adjustments to make everything look like we ambushed them. I hope that only you, me, and Peter know about what Peter has done. As for what happened at that time, just let others guess about it. Yes, madam. You can leave now. Gita then left, leaving only Zhang Tai and Alina in the whole main hall. Zhang Tai then looked at her with a curious look. Why not let others know what I did? Because you've helped me so much. Additionally, you will leave here sooner or later. As those guys from Magical Snake Island are all ruffians, I don't want to bring their hatred to you, Alina explained to Zhang Tai seriously. Zhang Tai just watched her and didn't know what to say. Previously, he wanted to protect her. It was really out of his imagination that she'd start to protect him. As for the revenge from Magical Snake Island, Zhang Tai didn't consider it at all. Magical Snake Island was at most a killer's organization in this sea area. He had even dared to offend the Three-Eye Association, which was supported by demons. Of course, he would not care about having one more Magical Snake Island as his enemy. Additionally, if a LV9 guy could gain a high position on Magical Snake Island, it indicated that the organization was not powerful at all. Furthermore, no matter how fast those people were, nobody could catch him up in the sea, and this place was very close to the sea. Therefore, he was not afraid of them at all. Actually, even Zhang Tai had not realized that, with his growing fighting strength during the past year, he had met the greatest powers across the Wei subcontinent like the Norman Empire, Huayuan Palace, and Three-Eye Association, which were far greater than common powers. Even the Zhen clan in Heaven's Cold City, which had a knight, was also a great power. Being gradually influenced by this, whenever he met any more powers or organizations, Zhang Tai would compare them with each other. As a result, he thought that some of the local powers were not threatening at all. However, what Alina said brought a strange feeling to Zhang Tai. If you say so, I think that I should thank you. It feels a bit strange. Zhang Tai rubbed his face. Alina then revealed a smile as her beautiful cyan eyes started to gleam. Now that you are going to stay with me and help me so much, I should be a bit considerate for you, right? It feels like what friends should do. Don't you feel that we are not friends now? Or would you prefer to be my savior and want me to treat you with a more respectful attitude? Am I not even qualified to look out for you? No, I didn't mean that. Zhang Tai felt a bit embarrassed then. This woman's words were too sharp, which really felt like being in Miss Dana's class. Alas, I know. The woman showed a sorrowful face and then started to touch her enchanting face. Do you feel that I'm too much older than you? Although I don't like to admit it, time flies. I'm 36 years old now. Not like those young girls at all. I'm old and look ugly and could even be your aunt. However, you are at most 18 years old. Do you feel that I'm not suitable to be your friend? No, you're very beautiful and are one of the most beautiful and charming women I've ever seen. I don't feel that age is a problem at all. Saying this, Zhang Tai peered at her plump boobs with an embarrassed look once again. Really? The woman's eyes brightened up at once as her face looked brilliant. Really, I wouldn't lie to a woman. Thanks. With a smile, Alina stood up from her chair. After that, she turned around and slightly lowered her body before kissing Zhang Tai's face. In Awentra, this is the highest reward from a woman to a man who praises her. At this moment, Zhang Tai watched that familiar yet strange beautiful face which was so close to him before glanced over that snow-white scenery and that black lace around her boobs below the collar of her skirt. Meanwhile, he sniffed the nice fragrance from her body. This made Zhang Tai feel entering that same wet dream that he had experienced numerous times where he encountered Miss Dana. In the wet dream, Miss Dana was so sexy just like this woman in front of him. Not knowing whether it was an illusion or not, Zhang Tai felt that she had started to draw him in on the journey back. However, he finally couldn't stand such a lure as he responded with the direct response that a man should have at this moment. That woman then sensitively lowered her head and looked at the raised tent between Zhang Tai's legs. After that, she straightened up before covered his mouth with her hand and started to giggle. Zhang Tai's face blushed instantly. No matter where and what local custom it was, if a man showed such a strong physiological impulsion in front of a woman, it would be a breach of etiquette. Pa, pa, pa. Alina clapped her hands 3 times. When the sound was still resonating in the hall, a side door was pushed open and a 50-odd female steward whose hair was tied up entered. In an old-fashioned and conservatory black skirt, although quite old, she still looked like a marble statue with no defects at all. Instead, she looked delicate and even a bit merciless. Madam Kate, please take Mr. Peter to the room number 2 to take a good rest. Prepare a set of proper clothes for him, he's now my bodyguard and will live in Blue Sea Castle for a while. Yes, madam. Mr. Peter, please come with me. At this moment, Zhang Tai also felt a bit embarrassed in front of Alina. Like a young school student who had been caught doing something bad by teacher, he hurriedly left. However, Zhang Tai had not imagined that room number 2 was not in the outer castle but in the inner castle. From the main hall to the inner castle, Zhang Tai didn't even find a male servant in the inner castle, even the guards were female. All the women were watching Zhang Tai out of curiosity like. Ms. Kate, are there any males here? Zhang Tai couldn't help but ask that woman who was leading him with a candlestick in the front. Actually, since Ms. Alina settled into Blue Sea Castle, you are the first male to live in the inner castle. The woman answered icily. Hearing this, Zhang Tai's heart started to palpitate at once. Chapter 388, Balas Clan. Despite being the first man sleeping in the inner castle, Zhang Tai still stayed in room number 2 quietly overnight no matter how heavily his heart pounded. Any young man encountering such a situation would have his fantasies run wild. Before going to bed, Kate had some female servants measure Zhang Tai's body. After that, nobody else came in Zhang Tai's room over the night. There was only a wall between room number 2 and the room where Alina, the Lord of Blue Sea Castle, lived while a door was opened on the wall. In this way, the 2 rooms were accessible to each other. It was very suitable for Zhang Tai to live in room number 2 as Alina's bodyguard. If any emergencies were to occur, Zhang Tai would be able to enter her room as fast as possible. As long as he had no health problems, Zhang Tai was always awake at 6 a.m. due to his biological clock. Lying on the bed, Zhang Tai stared at the ceiling. He felt it strange and incredibly stupid that he had promised a strange woman to be her bodyguard without any hesitation yesterday. Because she looked beautiful or because she looked like Miss Dana? If another woman encountered that situation yesterday or that woman looked very ugly or could not leave me any deep impression, I'm not sure as to whether I would accept her request and be involved with so many troubles so easily. As this was a very serious question, Zhang Tai tried his best to consider it when he was most clear-minded in the morning. However, even he started to despise himself when he got the answer, no. If she was not that beautiful or didn't look like Miss Dana, Zhang Tai would at most save her from her would-be killers or accompany her to a safe enough place before left. He would never do such a stupid thing. As a man who always had a plan, he would not choose to be involved in such a dispute which had nothing to do with him, as his primary target here was to improve his fighting strength and to gain as more 7 strength fruits as possible. After thinking it through, Zhang Tai mocked himself before letting out a deep sigh. I'm still a mortal, having not reached the level of immortals. Donder said it was a male animal's instinct to display themselves in front of beautiful women. In a man's subconsciousness, they did this to gain the right to mate with beautiful women so as to keep and optimize their DNA. Did I do that to gain the right to mate with Alina last night? With this whim, Zhang Tai felt a bit filthy. At the sight of the ever-firm steel mummy which raised up and caused a small hill on the quilt, Zhang Tai had to admit that that woman was especially lethal to him. That woman's nickname was Hot Fox. If a woman could be that influential in the Uwentra archipelago, she was definitely not an average woman. Are you a bad guy? Zhang Tai opened his quilt and patted the relentless thing as he mumbled. At this moment, that bad guy nodded sometimes. Zhang Tai then revealed an obscene smile. After having went to the washroom, the relentless thing finally became docile. The moment Zhang Tai wanted to put on clothes, he remembered that his clothes had been taken away by some female servants last night. What was left in his room were only a double carpe's waist and some personal belongings. Zhang Tai then pulled down the rope of the bell to call servants in. In only about 20 seconds, he had heard knocks. Come in please. When the door was pushed open, 4 female servants with sweet looks walked in with many things before closing the door of his bedroom. The 2 female servants in front were carrying a set of tidy clothes, shoes, and socks. As for the 2 female servants behind, one was holding a basin of hot water while the other was holding a towel and something strange. It was Zhang Tai's first time seeing them. Each of them looked more than 20 years old. In Zhang Tai's opinion, they all had top looks and figures. Mr. Peter, here are your new clothes. Fine. Zhang Tai nodded. Now that he had to stay here for a few days, his look as a pioneer would not be proper. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Do you want to put it on now? A female servant asked Zhang Tai. Yes. Soon after Zhang Tai replied, the female servants had surrounded him. One of them started to help him undo his buttons while the plumpy female servant who asked him directly knelt in front of Zhang Tai. She directly peeled off Zhang Tai's short pants, exposing his naked buttocks. Arg! Zhang Tai shouted loudly at once. He hadn't imagined that they were that audacious. He hurriedly covered his mummy and asked in an embarrassed way, "What do you want?" "We are helping you change clothes. Madam has told us, as long as you live in the inner castle, we will look after you like how we look after her. We will satisfy all of your demands and make you feel at home." Kneeling down on the ground, that female servant raised her head and smiled at Zhang Tai. Seeing that sweet smile and her plump boobs, Zhang Tai felt that bad thing became relentless again. Her gesture of kneeling down in front of him reminded him of those days in Black Hot City when he fed pigeons with the girls of the Rose Association. Zhang Tai hardly moved his eyes away from that female servant's alluring lips. I will do it myself. Even in Jinwu Castle, he didn't request the female servants to serve him that considerably. How come that be? This is our job. Oh, Mr. Peter, can you lift your right foot so that I can help you take off your pants? If you cannot stand steadily, you can support yourself on my shoulder. Saying this, the female servant had already moved Zhang Tai underwears to his ankles. Zhang Tai could only lift his 2 feet one by another and allow that female servant to take off his pants. He would never move his hand away from his mummy at this moment. Because in only a few seconds, that relentless thing had already grown pretty grim. As a LV7 fighter, of course he could stand steadily even for a whole day. Mr. Peter, can you straighten up your hands? I will take off your outer garment. Another charming female servant who was undoing his buttocks asked. Hearing this, the 4 female servants glanced at Zhang Tai at the same time while they tried hard to not burst out in laughter. Zhang Tai glanced at the 4 female women who were looking at him with strange looks and mumbled inside, F***ck, if you are not afraid of that, I won't fear anything then. You really think that I've not seen so many beauties before? With this whim, Zhang Tai directly loosened his grip. After the pressure on it was released, that relentless thing instantly sprung up like a furious long spear and pointed directly at the beautiful face of the girl who was kneeling down right in front of him while shaking slightly. It was even less than 15 centimeters away from her face. Arg! This time, the 4 female servants uttered a slight scream in unison. At the same time, their faces blushed slightly at once as they almost forgot what they were doing. Is that okay? After moving his hands away, Zhang Tai asked. Then, the female servants recovered composure while the female servant hurriedly took off his outer garment. In a split second, Zhang Tai showed his muscles and perfect figure. The 2 female servants holding a basin and 2 towels hurriedly started to clean up Zhang Tai's body. When one servant cleaned up his body with a wet hot towel, another one would instantly dry it with the dry towel. Therefore, Zhang Tai didn't feel cold or uncomfortable at all. The 2 female servants moved so adroitly and audaciously that they soon cleaned up Zhang Tai all over, including Zhang Tai's toes and that relentless thing. In the end, Zhang Tai directly closed his eyes. After recovering composure, Zhang Tai instantly felt that everything became smooth. Even he was naked, he still didn't feel embarrassed at all. It's over. Several minutes later, Zhang Tai heard a voice before he opened his eyes. Zhang Tai then glanced over himself and found he was wholly new. He was wearing a set of black knight's clothes which had a double line of buttons with golden laces. It looked both dignified and comfortable. His double carp's waist had also been put on by them. Now, he looked as carefree and handsome as a rich dandy. The water that the female servants used to clean his body had been mixed with a special essence which smelt like tobacco. Sniffing this fragrance, Zhang Tai felt like steamed bread. Watching him, the female servants' eyes radiated bright lights while their faces blushed. This set of clothes fits me well, thanks. Zhang Tai nodded towards them. You're welcome. If Madame sees you, she would be very happy. Zhang Tai shrugged. These female servants might have taken me as a boy toy who had some talents. For such a misunderstanding, Zhang Tai didn't want to explain at all. Instead, he just raised his nose and sniffed his sleeves. What have you put in water? It smells so good. That's a plant essence being extracted from dragonblood tobacco leaves which only exist in the ice and snow wilderness. It could clean up people's body and make them energetic. Besides, it could take good care of your skin. It's the best product for men. The female servant who was kneeling down in front of him answered. Hee hee. It's still early now, I want to warm up in the training field in the castle, can I? Madame has told us that you can do whatever you want in Blue Sea Castle. Several minutes later, Zhang Tai arrived at the training field inside Blue Sea Castle. At this moment, it was only a bit after 6 a.m. The fairy dragon star was still hanging in the eastern sky. According to the timetable of the castle, the guards would not start training until 7 a.m. There were so many training instruments and weapons on the training field. Zhang Tai skimmed over the rows of weapons and chose a heavy sword which weighed about 20 kilograms before he started to practice. Zhang Tai's training was very simple. After standing steadily, he would repeat the 8 sword movements that he had learned on Hidden Dragon Island: splitting, hacking, poking, pricking, raising, rebounding, stirring up and pushing aside. Strictly, Zhang Tai had not completed his compulsory cultivation courses on Hidden Dragon Island at all. In the past 1 year, even though Zhang Tai was talented and practicing hard, he still only finished the fundamental foot movements and shield defense skills. As for basic swordsmanship and basic archery, he had just started them. He had not accomplished 1 times for each movement of fundamental swordsmanship. As for basic archery, Zhang Tai was absolutely a newbie, although he knew the concrete movements and strength, yet it would be a question of probability for him to hit the target if it was over 30 m away. Thankfully, as he had awakened the ancestral bloodline, precise throwing skill, which could help him realize long-distance attack. Otherwise, he even felt shameless to tell others that he came from Hidden Dragon Palace. After staying in the Hidden Dragon Palace for so long, although students in Hidden Dragon Palace were forbidden to talk about the ancestral bloodlines that they had awakened, Zhang Tai still had heard about some half-open secret. Over 50% of students in Hidden Dragon Palace had awakened the most popular archery affinity as their first ancestral bloodline. After awakening this ancestral bloodline, people could have a super high affinity and enlightenment about archery. As a result, they would improve their archery very fast. This ancestral bloodline was the foundation of the other powerful archery-related ancestral bloodlines. It was said that Lan Yunxi awakened the most powerful archery-related ancestral bloodline, which was terrifying as it could help her kill many opponents more powerful than herself. As for the other two compulsory courses, flying skill and horsemanship, Zhang Tai had not started them yet. Although he had exchanged for the secret knowledge of flying skill before leaving Hidden Dragon Island, he had not yet started to cultivate it. According to the requirement of this secret knowledge, people were not able to cultivate flying skill until LV8, as this skill required one to release strength through the spine and further development of physical potentials. As for horsemanship, Zhang Tai didn't think it was necessary to learn it recently. Therefore, as long as he was free, Zhang Tai would cultivate his basic swordsmanship. Although the training conditions in Blue Sea Castle could not match that of Hidden Dragon Island, the principles and movements were the same. Therefore, Zhang Tai kept repeating the 8 movements of swordsmanship. Now, it would take Zhang Tai about 2 seconds to complete the 8 movements. His target was to finish them in 1 second before he reached LV8. Zhang Tai was told that Yu Xiaotian, whose nickname was Soaring Heaven's Sword, who ranked 3rd on the Hidden Dragon fighting strength list, could complete the 8 movements 4 times in 1 second. However, it was said that the first ancestral bloodline that Yu Xiaotian awakened was also sword affinity, which had a deep potential for development. Why haven't I awakened spear affinity at the beginning? Zhang Tai didn't understand it until now. As for the throwing-related ancestral bloodline that he awakened last night, Zhang Tai didn't remember its name. He only faintly felt that he had awakened all the ancestral bloodlines concerning precise throwing. He knew that his precise throwing skill could still be further evolved. However, he didn't know whether that bloodline that he awakened last night could be further evolved or not. Zhang Tai could not find an expert to guide him after leaving Hidden Dragon Palace. Everything had its pros and cons. If he wanted freedom, he was doomed to fumble alone on the way of cultivation. After Zhang Tai practiced for over 20 minutes alone on the training field, Gita arrived. Seeing Zhang Tai cultivating himself, Gita didn't speak. Zhang Tai's movements looked simple, boring, while being not powerful at all. Albeit knowing those basic swordsmanship movements, Gita didn't find anything special from them. Do you usually practice in that way? After watching for a short while, Gita finally uttered. Hearing this, Zhang Tai put away his sword and stopped. Not exactly, but this is a very important training item. Unbelievable, based on your swordsmanship last night, how come you still practice these basic movements? Gita looked amazed. Swordsmanship? I know what Mother * King swordsmanship? Although there's a lot of secret knowledge about swordsmanship in the secret knowledge pavilion of Hidden Dragon Palace, I didn't exchange for any one of them. As I've not passed the test of basic swordsmanship, I'm not qualified to exchange for that secret knowledge over there. Last night, I was only using some hand gestures of the Iron Blood Fist with the help of a long sword. That sword was just the extension of my palm and my fingers. Essentially, I was using Iron Blood Fist. Unless I met a powerhouse who had also enlightened the one-step, one-scenery situation of Iron Blood Fist last night, others could not figure out the secret of my movements. Of course, Zhang Tai mumbled inside. The more frequently you practice the basic skills, the better. There's an old saying in Eastern continent, the secret of any skill lies in proficiency. Zhang Tai pretended to be very serious. The secret of any skill lies in proficiency. Hearing this, Gita became stunned at once before frowned and mumbled repetitively. After repeating it 3 to 4 times, his frowns instantly disappeared as he burst out an exciting and enlightening expression. Thank you, I finally understand what I lack. With a faint smile, Zhang Tai's heart pounded. If you become an idiot by always practicing such basic movements, later on, don't blame me. There's another old Chinese saying, don't attempt to drill a hole on the tip of a hole. Even if you drill a hole on it, it's still useless. Seeing Gita wanting to ask another question, Zhang Tai hurriedly changed the topic. By now, except for iron blood fist and precise throwing skill, he could rarely show anything more powerful. He was not qualified to teach others at all. Additionally, he didn't need to explain precise throwing skill and iron blood fist to Gita, as the first one was formed by awakening his ancestral bloodline. As for the iron blood fist, he didn't know how he had made it even till present. As Gita was simple and honest, Zhang Tai liked him, so he didn't want to cheat him. "Oh, how about the task that Ms. Alina had let you do last night?" Zhang Tai knew that since he went to bed last night, many people in the Blue Sea Castle didn't sleep at all. Instead, they were running like machines. As Zhang Tai's task was to protect that woman, he didn't care about the other things. Additionally, that woman had her own decisions facing such an event. From the series of decisions that she had made since she came back to Blue Sea Castle last night, Zhang Tai had realized this point. "We've dealt with the dead bodies of our guards according to the order of Madame. We lost 22 guards, yet they lost 67 killers. It seems that we've ambushed them and gained a complete victory." Not until then Zhang Tai still didn't understand why Ms. Gita would let him do that. "Oh, Gita, can you tell me what happened between the Balas clan and Madame?" Zhang Tai instinctively felt that there was a sophisticated dispute between that woman and the Balas clan. She was the chairman of Balas Business Group, yet those members of the Balas clan wanted to kill her. This felt weird. Gita hesitated for a short while. "Is it inconvenient for you to mention it?" "No, nothing inconvenient at all. Although the madam doesn't like us talking about the Balas clan, I still want to say it. Those Balas clansmen are just shameless B***stards. It's the biggest mistake that madam has made in her life. She treats them too well," Gita said furiously as he waved his fist fiercely. "If you are free, can you tell me about the details so that I could make an early judgment about the possible coming dangers?" "Fine." Gita let out a long sigh. 18 years ago, the alleged Balas Business Group and Balas clan didn't exist on St. Helena Island at all. At that time, there was only one agency called Balas on St. Helena Island. It was too small and was hardly managing a wood business. The male boss of the company was a young man called Shire who came here to develop his undertaking. He had a beautiful wife called Alina. Balas was lucky because he had such a beautiful wife. He was unlucky as he had died in the second year after getting married to his wife, leaving her wife who had been pregnant 2 months. For the business of the company, Balas went to the ice and snow wilderness. However, he was attacked by bandits. Besides losing all the payment for goods, he was also heavily wounded. Soon after returning to St. Helena Island, he died. Before he died, he still owed a great amount of money. Except for the wood agency called Balas Company, which was illiquid, he left not even 1 copper coin. Therefore, the devotees asked his wife, who was still pregnant, for debts. Alina, whose belly gradually bulged, gritted her teeth and started to take over that completely illiquid Balas Company for her late husband and her baby. She then started to learn all the skills to manage the company and to do the wood business in order to pay off the debts and strive for a bright future for her baby. Facing the dilemma, she displayed her exceptional perseverance, wisdom and business talent. Only after 4 months, the Balas Company managed by Alina had paid off the huge amount of debt owed by her ex-husband. Not only this, she made a great sum of money. Right at the same time, because of working overload, she had a miscarriage. In only half a year, she had experienced so many difficulties, however, she was not beaten by them. After losing her baby, she became more ambitious and started to manage Balas Company carefully. 3 years later, Balas Company was changed to Balas Commercial Organization and started to grow rapidly in the commercial world of St. Helena Island. 6 years later, Balas Commercial Organization was changed to Balas Business Group and started to own its own armed forces and fleet of ships. From then on, it had begun to be famous across the Uentra archipelago. On the 7th year, some relatives of Alina's ex-husband's family came to St. Helena Island for Alina's shelter. Alina took them in, causing the recent situation. Now, Balas Business Group had become well known across St. Helena Island. benefited from this. Those Ballas clan's relatives being taken in by Olena gradually grew arrogant. When they came to St. Herner Island, Madame took them out of kindness and arranged positions for them in the business group at their requests. In the early a couple of years, they were very serious and honest, however, they gradually changed. At the beginning, they considered themselves as Madame's family members and relatives. Gradually, Madame became their younger generation. Then, because they surname Ballas and have stayed in Ballas business group for a long time, they felt that they should have shares of this business group. Finally, last night, they might think that the whole Ballas business group should belong to them while Madame became the outsider. Saying this, Gitta forcefully punched his own palm. I understand. Zhang Tai also sighed with feelings. Because of her mercy and tolerance to her ex-husband's relatives, she had raised them into fierce wild beasts. Perhaps in those B*****'s heart, a lonely woman had become their last obstacle to occupy the Ballas business group. The woman should have realized that. After Gitta said that, the day was going to break. Thus, Zhang Tai and Gitta got the message at the same time. After being told that Olena was assassinated last night, those B*****s of Ballas clan finally arrived at Blue Sea Castle after one night. Chapter 389, Poison or Cheese. Hearing that the Ballas clansmen arrived, Zhang Tai followed Gitta out to have a look at those freak B*****s. Before arriving at the gate of the castle, Zhang Tai had already heard a hoarse voice drifting from outside. B****, do you know who I am? These are my guards. Why do you allow them to put down their weapons before entering Blue Sea Castle? Who grant you this right? Where's Olena? Call her out. We need a reason. Why Ballas clansmen have to face such a rude treatment in the territory of Ballas business group? The moment he finished talking, the others outside the castle had started to kick up a row. That's it. Why do you force us to put down the weapons and don't allow us in? Go back to Greyrock Castle. I've told you that they don't like us. I was told that that woman faced an assassination last night. She sent people to notify us. Therefore, we come here to see her. However, she stopped us from entering the castle. What does she mean? Hearing this, Parav roared, this is the rule of Blue Sea Castle. This father doesn't care who are you. Have you the mother seen any castle allow hundreds of fully armored soldiers in with weapons? If you want to enter the castle, you have to put down your weapons. Additionally, only 10 of you are allowed in at most. The others have to stay outside the castle. Soon after Parav finished his words, he had heard swears outside the castle at once. Zhang Tai and Gitta didn't come to the outside of the castle to have a closer look. Instead, they came to the tower of the castle and looked downward through the shooting mouth of a bolt mound. The suspension bridge had been put down, however, at this moment, a team of over 200 guards was crowding between the suspension bridge and the gate of the castle. 3 of them in brilliant clothes were riding on 3 exceptionally handsome horses and looked at the guards of Blue Sea Castle outside the castle. They didn't even get off their horses before entering the castle, which showed their arrogant and domineering looks. Standing in the tower of the castle, Zhang Tai could see clearly that the 3 men were all old. One among them had pale hair, they had different frames. One fat, one thin, and the rest was normal in weight yet was evidently bald-headed. Are they the B****s of the Ballas clan? Zhang Tai turned around and asked Gitta. Gitta nodded as he said furiously. The fat one in the middle is Silicis, the thin one on his left is Mesa, while that bald-headed one is called Etna. They were Shire's uncles and small figures on Chartha Island previously. However, after arriving at St. Herner Island, they gradually forgot who they were. Do they live in Greyrock Castle? Who else does the Ballas clan have on the island? Madame was forced to build Greyrock Castle for them 4 years ago. Previously, they directly lived in Blue Sea Castle. They had more than 10 people, including their kids and wives. However, some of these Chabags wanted to take Madame's ruling position, therefore Madame let them move away. After that, these people pretended to be pitiful across the St. Herner city. They even spoke ill of Madame. Therefore, Madame had to build Greyrock Castle for them and arranged them in. Did they also take so many people to Blue Sea Castle before? Nope, at most 10. Hearing this, Zhang Tai understood at once. The three guys had a guilty conscience, otherwise, they didn't need to take so many people in the daytime. However, they must have thought up a good reason for this. Now that Alina encountered an assassination, it was reasonable for them to be cautious outside by taking more guards as the relatives of Alina. It would be much more convenient if we could directly deal with them down there. Zhang Tai sighed as he touched the steam-driven defensive ballista on his side. I also think so, but if we do that, Madam's reputation would be ruined. Gita answered with a look of agreement. After a mess, those B***stards found that Parav had a determined attitude while nobody turned on the defense equipment on the wall and it was peaceful as usual inside the castle. They finally recovered composure. After a short negotiation, the three guys on the horses had agreed to take only 7 guards inside the castle. Alina received the 3 people in the hall of deliberation of the castle. As her bodyguard, Zhang Tai just stood behind Alina lazily with Gita and watched the 3 B***stards walking inside. Alina, we were told that you were attacked last night. Are you alright? The moment they entered the hall of deliberation, Silasys had already shouted loudly in a cunning and exaggerating way like being afraid of not being heard. When in Huaiyuan Prefecture, Zhang Tai had seen too many people wearing expensive clothes made of Eastern silk. However, he had not seen such tasteless dress collocations. The moment they came in, Zhang Tai almost thought they were 3 colorful showing stands of silk cloth. I'm okay. After what happened last night, I became more clear-minded and thought through many things. Alina said with a smile so kindly and calmly like she was not influenced by what happened last night at all. Arg, what have you seen through? Hearing her words, bald-headed Etna asked nervously. Soon after he asked, Mesa the thinner guy hurriedly pulled his sleeve. Realizing it, Etna hurriedly coughed several times to cover his previous tension and malpractice. Oh, I mean, what have you thought through? Are you stimulated by that or something else? Seeing such an awkward performance, which almost revealed his true intentions, Zhang Tai couldn't help but show the white of his eyes. Such idiots wanted to rule the Ballast business group? Are you mother fasters king kidding me? No wonder Alina could tolerate them for such a long time. They had been too foolish that they could even make people loosen their vigilance. Additionally, I thought Alina didn't expect that these B***stards could be that vicious. Alina then sighed. I'm thinking that if I was just killed last night, the whole Ballast business group would be dangerous. I have no relatives around me anymore, except you. I think that actually, you should help me manage some affairs of Ballast business group. These years I've been putting so much time on the affairs of Ballas business group. I think I should spare some more time to enjoy life. With so much money, if I don't consume them, it would be a great pity. Hearing this, the 3 men were all stunned. From their expressions, Zhang Tai could see they were surprised that they didn't meet any dangers but good things. Enna was so happy that he almost jumped up / it should have long been that. No matter what, Ballast business group should be shared more by Ballast clansmen. Cough, cough. Mesa coughed as he glanced at Sisalus before asking Alina, do you mean that? Yes, I plan to let you 3 enter the board of directors of the business group to see the concrete operations of the top management of the business group. With rich experiences, you can definitely provide necessary opinions for me on the board of directors. There are some positions in vacancy. Silasys, I want to let your son take the position of the representative of Ballast Business Group's Continental Agency as you had recommended. The suspicious expression of Silasys instantly disappeared after Silasys heard Alina's words. At the same time, he pretended to be modest and hesitated. This is not proper. I've already decided. I called you here to declare this. As I've thought it through, therefore, I just let it go. Alina's pun could only be figured out by Zhang Tai and Gita. Although Gita still didn't understand it too much, Zhang Tai completely understood it at once as he was shocked inside. At this time, he finally understood what Alina said last night. She was really killing people without spilling blood. What else? One more. I plan to visit the head of Bell Clan today and send him a gift so as to negotiate with Bell Clan on how to establish new settlements in the central part of St. Helena Island. However, after what happened last night, I want to have a rest in the castle today. When you go back to Greyrock Castle, please visit the head of Bell Clan on my behalf. No problem. At this moment, the three people had been extremely joyful that they even jumped high. Hearing that Alina assigned them such a brilliant task, they hurriedly nodded. Alexander! Alina shouted before Alexander walked into the hall of deliberation with a delicate squay box whose length of a side was 33.3 centimeters and stood beside her seriously. With a smile on her face, Alina looked kinder. However, Zhang Tai could sense a merciless intention flashing through her body. I will let Alexander go with you with the gift. I prepared the gift for the head of Bell Clan, he will like it. There's also a letter in it. You can leave now if you have nothing else to deal with. After Alexander and the three people of the Ballas clan left, Alina made a gesture to let Gita leave too, leaving Zhang Tai and herself in the hall of deliberation. At the sight of this woman, Zhang Tai felt she was very fatigued and had a sense of relief. Is the gift in the box that head you had Gita cut off last night? Zhang Tai asked. Old Bell's 2 sons were killed by those people on Magical Snake Island. As for all the top managers of Magical Snake Island, he has done a lot of investigating. Additionally, he is offering rewards for their heads. Old Bell definitely know who he was. Zhang Tai then kept silent for a while. Watching that woman in front of him with sophisticated expressions, he realized that this woman was so considerable. Her capabilities were out of his imagination. If those killers on Magical Snake Island were truly hired by the three people of Ballas clan, she did this to make them jump into the fire pit themselves. She had Gita rearrange the battle scene and kept secret what happened last night. After that, she abnormally awarded those guys of the Ballas clan and let them send this killer's head to the Bell clan. After combining the above 3 pieces of information, those people on Magical Snake Island must have reached a conclusion that their people were screwed over by the Ballas clanmen. On one hand, Ballas clanmen pretended to assassinate Alina by hiring killers from Magical Snake Island. On the other hand, they notified Alina in advance and saved her at the critical moment. They did this to make Alina set a trap to kill all the killers and to take an important figure's head as a chip to cooperate with the Bell clan. When a killer's organization met this situation, they would not hate Alina. Instead, they would hate the Ballas clan who hired their men so much. As a result, those on Magical Snake Island would definitely kill them as a result. Not to mention those idiots of the Ballas clan who didn't understand Alina's plan. Even if they figured it out, they could not refuse it either, because this woman's arrangement looked reasonable. Not until then did Zhang Tai realize how this woman who looked weak could establish such a great undertaking alone on this island. Alina turned around and looked at Zhang Tai. From Zhang Tai's expression, she realized that Zhang Tai had already understood what she thought. She then asked him, "Am I bad?" Zhang Tai waved his head. Have you thought that what if Ballas clansmen didn't really orchestrate the assassination? If so, everything I promised them today would be their rewards. I will take it as my compensation for them. They would not lose anything then. Additionally, if they were not involved in it, those people on Magical Snake Island would not look to them for vengeance. Zhang Tai became dumb at once. For those of the Ballas clansmen, if they did it, today's reward would be a poison covered with honey. If not, today's reward would be cheese covered with honey. It depended on whether they had even a bit good intention towards this woman. Does such a woman need my protection? Zhang Tai started to be suspicious. Thinking of this, he instantly felt relaxed. The alleged weakness might be the woman's best camouflage. Previously, I thought I might stay for a while on St. Helena Island. However, given from the current situation, I might leave here soon, because I find that you are more sensitive to your crises than me. Am I that disgusting, or men don't like women with such a train of thought? Alina sighed as she revealed a sorrowful look. I have to go to the ice and snow wilderness. Additionally, I find that if I stayed here too long, I might be eaten by you, including my skin and bones. Hearing his reply, Alina burst out with charming giggles at once. Chapter 390, A Person from Magical Snake Island. Obviously, the trip ticket from the Pier No. 7 of St. Herner Harbor to ice and snow wildness was wasted. In order to comply with his promise to Alina, Zhang Tai stayed on St. Herner Island a few more days. These days, after encountering the assassination attempt, Alina spent most of her time in Blue Sea Castle, so did Zhang Tai. During this period, Zhang Tai only went out one time to buy a shipping ticket leaving St. Herner Island on August 5. The reason that Zhang Tai chose to leave on August 5 was because some powerhouses of the barbarians would arrive at Blue Sea Castle on August 4 from Sonera Island. Sonera Island was the biggest island in the Uwentra archipelago. It covered over 180,000 square kilometers. With dense forests, it gathered barbarians and pirates in the sea area in the north of Wei subcontinent. Now, Adeline, who was beside Alina and those female fighters in the castle all came from the powerful barbarian tribe on Sonera Island. The barbarian tribe and Alina always had reliable cooperation. After this event, Alina had Adeline pass a message about an agreement that she had reached with the barbarians tribe previously. According to that agreement, Adra Island to protect Alina. Adeline's tribe would at least assign 2 truly powerful fighters and a barbarian shaman to protect Alina. According to Adeline, the truly powerful fighters assigned by barbarian's tribe were at least LV-10 fighters. They might even be a master fighter or a great master fighter. Additionally, barbarian shaman's powerful sensing ability towards dangers were also well known across the Uwentra archipelago. With the assistance of such powerhouses, Zhang Tai knew that his status as her bodyguard would retire gloriously. What made Zhang Tai more reassured was that the powerhouses and shaman assigned by Adeline's tribe were all women. Adeline's tribe was centered on matrilineal society and goddess worship, which accounted for a great part of the barbarian tribe. In this tribe, women were the most privileged and powerful ones instead of men. Most women were not ambitious. Additionally, they were more loyal to undertakings and work than men. Zhang Tai thought that this might be why Alina trusted them. Of course, Alina, the able woman, might have a deep relationship with that barbarian's tribe ruled by females like Adeline. Alina didn't leave her castle for a few days. However, there were always people going to Blue Sea Castle to visit her. As a result, many affairs regarding the Ballas business group were dealt with in Blue Sea Castle directly. Zhang Tai also felt free. Besides eating and drinking, he also practiced his fighting skills. Therefore, in only a few days, Zhang Tai, as the bodyguard of Alina, was already getting along well with the chief guards and most of the guards. Zhang Tai was very easygoing. When he was free, he used to train together with the guards on the training field and played jokes with them. Therefore, in a short time, everybody in the castle had fallen in love with this handsome teenager. Of course, those who liked Zhang Tai most were those female servants who always served him these days. They used to serve Alina, however, after Zhang Tai lived in room number 2, Alina had assigned them to serve Zhang Tai. At the beginning, whether it was changing clothes or taking bath in the evening, those female servants all performed very seriously. Gradually, after a couple of days, they had grown increasingly audacious and started to tease Zhang Tai, always causing Zhang Tai to become very excited. Last night, when Zhang Tai was taking a bath, the servants walked into the bathroom naked and expressed that they would help Zhang Tai take the bath. In less than 2 minutes after they started touching Zhang Tai's body, their naughty little golden fish had already started to swim across Zhang Tai's body. Everything then happened naturally. Early on the morning of August 4, Zhang Tai woke up from those women's crossed limbs. After what happened last night, Zhang Tai now felt pretty refreshed. After slightly moving away the snow-white limbs and thighs from his body, Zhang Tai rubbed the 2 pairs of plumpy flesh balls that he loved so much last night beside his head. Zhang Tai then got off the bed. After putting on a nightrobe, Zhang Tai sat on the chair calmly beside his bed and started to appreciate the beautiful scenery on the bed. Since that week when he messed with the girls of the Rose Association and Beverly, Pandora, Alice, Zhang Tai had been fascinated by sitting beside the bed calmly and watching a number of women lying on the bed lazily and sluggishly. This feeling intensified Zhang Tai's sense of achievement. Whenever he watched similar scenery, he would look like a general who had won a battle and was making an inspection tour towards the battlefield to see his captives. The inside of the room smelt weird. Under the dim light, this smell felt more extravagant. The delicate curves of those female servants were looming under the thin bed sheet. Because of the fierce battle on bed last night, they were too fatigued and were still in a deep sleep. Watching that wall facing the big bed, a thought came to Zhang Tai's mind. Last night, those servants and I were so crazy that their screams and groans might have been heard outside the corridor. Alina, who was sleeping in the neighboring room, should have heard that. She should have heard it. With this thought, Zhang Tai felt so excited and evil inside. After thinking about for a while on the chair, Zhang Tai watched the 4 women lying on the bed again. He then smiled until he realized that he hadn't asked their names, although having been familiar with them for a few days. Whether it was a bit too dissolute to sleep with some girls whose names were even unknown? Zhang Tai thought that he might have been as lascivious as described by Hista. Is this the payment given by that woman? Hee, although it was not a great treasure, it truly feels nice, although it was a bit too lascivious. I will be leaving tomorrow. It doesn't seem too bad to create such a memory before departing. After putting on some clothes and cleaning up, Zhang Tai arrived at the training field as usual. Before the first sunlight arrived, he had already started to cultivate his fundamental swordsmanship. The rapid sound of horse hoofs broke the tranquility of Blue Sea Castle at dawn. Before he practiced for a while on the training field, Zhang Tai had already heard the sound of horse hoofs outside the castle. Although it was not loud, it was very resonant. Thus, someone started to shout loudly outside the castle with a flurried voice. Hurry up, put down the suspension bridge, I will to see Mrs. Olina. Something happened in Greyrock Castle. In a few minutes, all the influential figures in Blue Sea Castle gathered in the hall of deliberation. Even Olina had been woken up. When Zhang Tai saw Olina, he felt Olina's eyes turned a bit red. At the sight of Zhang Tai, she stared at him deeply. Something truly happened in Greyrock Castle. Last night, 19 members of the Ballas clan living in Greyrock Castle had their heads chopped off. This assassination happened silently. It wasn't until this morning that the servants in the castle found something was wrong. The guards in the castle also became as flurried as a fly without head. Finally, someone thought about notifying Blue Sea Castle. Nominally, the whole Greyrock Castle still belonged to the Ballas business group. After the Ballas clan members were killed, the Greyrock Castle could not even be sustained for one day longer without the support of Blue Sea Castle. Hearing this news, all the people in Blue Sea Castle were in a short silence. At this moment, Zhang Tai was watching the woman with a sophisticated look. He knew that the Ballas clan was finally buried by this woman due to their own greed and foolish behaviors. After feeling like they had been screwed by the Ballas clan, Magical Snake Island as a whole was driven mad and finally carried out their revenge in the shortest period. Hearing this news, Alina closed her eyes as she looked a bit sorrowful while appearing to carry a sense of relief. After a long while, Alina finally opened her eyes. Do you know how killers infiltrated Greyrock Castle? Sitting on the main seat, the woman asked the messenger in a calm voice. No. We don't. All the defense facilities in Greyrock Castle were normal last night. Was there any guard or someone else missing in Greyrock Castle this morning? Hearing this question, the messenger looked at Alina with a surprised look. One guard disappeared. Zhang Tai immediately understood what happened. That disappearing guard must be the very killer or the betrayer who let the killers in before escaping. His status as a guard must be fake. Right then, a guard entered the hall of deliberation and murmured beside Parev's ears. The moment Parev heard that guard's words, he instantly raised his eyebrows. Parev, what's up? Alina asked. Someone is outside the castle. He said he had a gift for you, my madam. The guard in the castle let him to show the gift so as to check it, yet that man insisted on handing this gift to you himself. Additionally, he has something to tell you. Let him in then. Bring him in the hall of deliberation. I want to see what gift he has brought to me. Alina said calmly. Madam. Gita stood up at once and wanted to stop that. It's too dangerous. I need to take a look outside first. This is Blue Sea Castle. Although that person dares to come here alone, why would I not dare to see him with you on my side? Hearing this, everybody in the hall of deliberation raised their chests, including Zhang Tai. At the same time, Zhang Tai sighed inside, this woman is really sharp. What if he's a killer? Gita still wanted to argue. If all the killers on Magical Snake Island were that brave, it would not be called Magical Snake Island, too. Gita then didn't speak anymore. Alina then made a gesture to let Parav bring in that person. That person following Paravin looked tough with a fat face. Raising his head, he looked pretty aggressive. With a case in hand, the moment he entered the hall of deliberation, he had glanced over everybody else. As Zhang Tai looked young, that man soon moved his eyes away from Zhang Tai like how he treated a toy boy. In a contrast, he observed Gita and Adeline for a longer time. When he focused on Alina, a wild wolf-like greedy light and an obscene smile appeared on his face. He then licked his lips. This guy had a special personality of fighters. He must have a higher fighting level. Besides Zhang Tai and Alina across the hall of deliberation, all the others looked depressive, furious, and wanted to charge at him. As he dared to glance over Alina so rudely in the public, it fully indicated that he despised the others. You are Alina, the chairman of Ballas Business Group, the charming fox of St. Herner Island? Before the others asked him, he had already asked abruptly. Right, I'm Alina. The female owner of the castle answered calmly. Heh, truly nice. You look good, no wonder Phonex could be screwed by you. Hearing this, Zhang Tai instantly knew his status. You are from Magical Snake Island? Alina asked. Right. He raised his head and answered. The moment he replied, the sound of blades being pulled out of the sheaths drifted across the hall of deliberation. Alina raised her hand to stop those people whose eyes had already turned red. I heard you had something for gift me? That man instantly threw that case onto the ground while a head with a pair of widening flurried eyes and a brass cylinder with a document inside rolled out of the case and stopped beside Zhang Tai's feet. The head belonged to Cree, that chief guard who left Blue Sea Castle a few days ago, while that brass cylinder with a document inside must be the letter of authorization that Alina had Cree to give it to the head of Bell Clan. Lowering his head, Zhang Tai watched that head with still a painful look before sighing inside, this man might be an able man, yet he's just an idiot. Alina was obviously sending him to the hell, yet he truly went there. Did he still want to be awarded an influential position in Blue Sea Castle when he came back? I heard you sent Phonex's head to that old guy in Bell Clan a few days ago. After hearing that, our boss also decided to send you a gift. How about it? Do you like it? 1. A fly without head truly could still fly for a short while, yet in a flurried way. 2. Magical Snake Island indicated that killers there were always as cunning and timid as snakes.